Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast, folks. I'm glad you're here again. As you probably heard in the last podcast, man, I'm gearing up to jump on the bike and ride out west and try to catch up with a lot of new people to bring on the podcast, so stay tuned for that. You can follow me on Instagram. I'll probably be posting a shit ton of videos and pictures and all that good stuff. So follow me, The Fast Life Garage on Instagram. Also, the podcast is The Fast Life Podcast, so check that out as well. Also want to thank D&D Exhaust, man, for sponsoring this podcast. You can always go to D&Dexhaust.com and check out all the high performance, high quality pipes they make for just about every V-twin model out there. You can check them out on Instagram as well, D Exhaust. You can always call in an order at 844-D&D pipe. And don't forget, you can always use Fast Life for a percentage off at checkout, whether you phone in or online. And also, don't forget, they will be out in Daytona here in a couple weeks, where you can schedule, to get some zippers, cams, and exhaust systems put on. They'll be, Rusty will be out there doing all that stuff. I think they might be at Destination Daytona. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Maybe you need to check out D&D's Instagram profile to find out where they'll be set up. But if you listen to the podcast with D&D and you enjoyed it, man, stop by and say hi to Rusty and his crew out there. And, I think they're going to have some margaritas again like they did in Lone Star Rally. So you can always stop in and, shoot the shit. So I also want to thank Texas Performance MC, Mark, my dude, Cedar Park, Texas. You can always go down there and get your bike worked on and looked at and serviced on and performance-ized. Yeah, I made that up. But you can always go down there and check him out or schedule to get something done for your bike. He is a dealer for just about everything you could want for your bike. So get with him. He'll give you his expert advice and opinions on products and types of things to do to your bike. So check him out. TexasPerformanceMC.com as well as Instagram. Also, my dude, Paint Huffer Metal Flake. I'm actually going to be leaving Saturday night, Sunday morning, which happens to be Mr. Brian from Paint Huffer Metal Flake, the owner's birthday. So I'll be catching up with him that night. Gonna blast down there, leave Dallas, head straight to Phoenix. It's 1,100 miles. I've done it before, so I should be able to do it again. And then when I get there that night, we're gonna podcast. And I don't know what that's gonna be like with me, putting 1,000 or 1,100 miles down in one day, and then trying to be attentive for this. But we're gonna do it anyway and see what it sounds like, right? You can always check out painthuffer.com and see all the flakes and all the stuff they do. Pretty much everything you could want, you custom painters out there, he has it for sale on his website. Also, don't forget to follow him, Paint Huffer Metal Flake, on Instagram if you want to see a lot of very talented painters and finished products of what his flakes can look like on finished products. Yeah, man, I want to thank some of you guys for dealing with my bitching and complaining about Patreon, man. I hope it doesn't sound that like that, but we're in a process, man, trying to figure out things to kind of make this podcast bigger and better this year, and that shit takes money. So I want to thank Josh Decker, man, for that enormous thanks, dude. That's a lot, man. I appreciate it. Chris Cano, appreciate it. I know Jay Maynard came through with some stuff. I know a couple of other guys came through, and I really appreciate that, guys. I hope that you guys understand that just this podcast is, let me back up. Last podcast I talked about doing a paywall type situation, and sorry if you hear my cat back there going crazy. Talked about doing a paywall situation, and just the more and more I looked into that, the more it just wasn't. I don't know, man. Like I want this to be available for anybody, And if you find value in this, if you find that you listen to this, every time it comes out, or it's, you know what I mean? And you find value, then go to our Patreon and pay for, give me whatever you think is valued at, right? And I think that's probably the best way to go about it, So all you guys that's been Patreon members since damn near day one, I appreciate it so much. It really does, at least now it does, really kind of help pay for at least the podcast and a couple things to continue to do the podcast. So anyway, thank you guys. This podcast is with my buddy Cody Childress. Cody's been he's been in this industry for quite a while. He's good friends with Jason, who you've heard a couple times on this podcast now. He built one sick ass twin cam FXR and won the FXR show a couple years ago. And he's just been in the industry for a while, man. He's kind of like the quiet guy that's been doing big things for quite a while. Also on this podcast, we got my good buddy Kyle, just a friend of ours that was around at the time. He's just a straggler, I guess. I don't know what you call him. But anyway, have fun. Check it out. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
I'm just gonna answer questions. I don't even know where.
We're going, but I didn't have any questions for you. We're just gonna drink and talk.
Cool. That's the best way, man.
I guess we should let people know who you are. So Cody Childress.
Shit, I don't even know who I am, man. So I'm just some no name from Abilene, Texas. So, but I've been in this industry for, I would say, almost 20 years. But I fly under the radar.
Yeah, that's what Jason was kind of saying, is that you're like the most known unknown dude.
He's always telling me something like that. But I guess I've been around for a long time, and I've got to do a lot of stuff and meet a lot of cool people, but I just never, I don't know. I'm my own worst critic.
Yeah.
I've never tried to go and put myself out there. I just not, if I do something, somebody likes it, I like it. But I'm not out there going, hey, you got to check out what I did. I don't. Yeah. You know, it's not my personality.
Weird, did you? So back in the chopper days, were you still in Abilene? Like you've always been there, doing your shop and doing your business and everything.
Born and raised in Abilene, and my dad was a chopper guy for years, and I got out of the military in '98, and while I was in the military. I was engaged to my current wife, but I'm still with her for 24 years. But I didn't want to go out and party like everybody, so I read motorcycle magazines and books. That's all I did. I didn't do shit but read. So when I got out, I was like, I really want to ride because my dad rode. I bought a Ultra Jackhammer.
The fuck is that?
Ultra Motorcycle Company. I don't know if you remember Ultra Motorcycle Company, but they were, when Titan motorcycles and Ultra motorcycles, they were like one of the first. There used to be a place in Dallas called, it wasn't Dream Machines, it was, I'm trying to think of the fucking name of that place. It was before that. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but they were an Ultra Motorcycle Company dealer. They built this little 4-up, 37-degree rate hardtail chopper, and S&S had a new 96-inch motor, which at that time was, to me, was huge. So I bought that bike, and it was such a piece of shit that I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to get involved in this, I got to know how to work on it. So I ended up, the dealer I bought it from, because it was such a piece of shit, bought it back from me. And so I just decided, I was like, I'm going to build a bike.
Yeah.
And all my friends thought I was batshit crazy. They were like, you're going to what? I'm like, yep. So I bought a welder and a lift. And I was working for FedEx at the time. I worked there for about 10 years. And started buying this one little part at a time, and then
one part at a time. Fucking Johnny Cash song.
Well, that's all I could afford to buy, man, because when I was at FedEx at 99,
yeah,
take home after taxes, I was making about $380 a week, and I thought I was killing it. I really did.
Dude, when I was a kid, I felt like, man, if I could just make $500 a week, dude, I'd be so rich.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't even make that till I was I think the first time I started making $500 a week was I was 26. Yeah, it was wild.
I was 26 at this time, probably because I'd gotten out of the Army when I was 26. So, but I was buying one little part at a time. It was back when Extreme Frames. I don't know if you remember Extreme Frames, but he was making cool frames. Jesse was making the CFL frame, and he was making a Dragon frame. And I wanted a CFL or a Dragon. I just couldn't afford it. So the Extreme frame was what I considered the next best thing. So
how was the chopper scene out there? Was there a bike scene in Abilene that was, up that you could be a part of, or what?
No. Yeah, it didn't exist. It was still is today. It's do-rags and chaps. That's,
That's Club Stop Texas,
yeah,
dude.
I make fun of it, but that was one of the biggest problems that I had is nothing caught on. Even right now, big wheel baggers being where they are,
Yeah.
they're just starting to hit in Abilene where people want a big wheel bagger. I mean, the chopper scene didn't exist. You know, people come in and ask you, and you tell them something, they're like, fuck, I'm not paying that. I mean, it didn't exist. That's why in Abilene I had to go, you know, in Abilene, everybody knows who I am, but it's more so not because of what I really did there. I went somewhere else. I mean,
You're the dude that almost got out?
Yeah. I mean, I just never went anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I just, you know, and I wanted to focus on people around Abilene. I just couldn't get anybody to, for one, the income is a little lower in Abilene probably than other places. So, you know, trying to sell a $10,000 motor or an $8,000 motor or $5,000 or a $3,500 RevTech motor at the time was, you know. But I mean, I was fortunate. I mean, I had several people that ended up doing a couple things, some local, but a lot of stuff I did was selling stuff out of state. I mean,
so were you big on the whole Chopper Dogs website and everything too?
I was actually the 6th member to ever sign up.
For real? Nice.
And the only reason that I had signed up that early is because I had an inside track that it was coming online through my sister. So yeah, and I won't go into how she knew about it, but you could probably use your imagination and figure that out. But she kept telling me about this deal that was going on, and you got to sign up, whatever. And I actually think at the time you had to pay to sign up.
Yeah, that's what Jason said. That there was a fee that you paid monthly to be on it, or was it like a one-time fee? Or
I think it was monthly, but like I say, my sister had this inside track on what was happening, so she gave me a password or something, and I don't think for the first couple of years I paid anything, you know. And then,
but it was cool because that time that's all you really had to connect with people was the chat rooms online and shit.
Yeah, and it was like-minded people, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the guys in Abilene where I was from, it was what I was into, which was choppers and you know, rigid frames, skinny front tires, big motors. Nobody where I'm from was into that at all. I mean, there was more of an old school class of biker in Abilene still than there was this new chopper scene of, you know, flashy paint, big motors. I mean, there's still a guy in Abilene that's probably the chopper king of where I'm from. I mean, you know, he's 75 years old now, but he's forgotten more than I'll ever know. But just nobody was really catching on to what was going on. But it was expensive. I mean, it was at the time. When those TV shows started hitting, dude, the prices were going crazy, and people loved looking at it. But I don't even know that people where I'm from, people even really knew what they were looking at. I mean,
was it just too the money out there? Is it more what do you call them? Fucking like oil money and shit from like West Texas and everything.
It is, and at that particular time in 2000, there was nothing going on in the oil business. I mean, when I was growing up. When I was younger, oil was a huge thing in West Texas. Yeah. Well, when I say in high school, went on to a few years of college and joined the Army, oil had busted at that time. The oil field jobs really weren't doing anything. I mean, it was just, and even in later on until, golly, probably in the mid 2000s, oil kicked back off, and you started seeing some money coming in from that. But there was a period, it was just guys working, just trying to get by, just hoping they can make enough money to live.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still fucking with this thing, something's weird about it. It's just, I don't know. I think feels like it sounds better. My voice wasn't being caught at all. It was just echoing through everything else. But anyway, I was big in the chat room thing, and now that listening to how, like, you know, you and Boosted Brad and Jason and so many other of y'all's group of friends, like, all started that way. I mean, a lot of us are kind of, you know, my group of friends that I would consider my inner circle, whatever, kind of coming around the same way. You know, just we're using, you know, Instagram now and Facebook stuff and stuff like that. But
well, Chopper Dogs, in my opinion, was it was a form of social media at the time. I mean, it was like an Instagram at the time for people that were, and you get a lot of people that I don't know Jesse on a personal level at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been around him several times going to the no love parties. I never introduced myself to him, never asked for a picture. I just wasn't that guy. I mean, nothing wrong with doing it, but I was around that sort of stuff, and, you know, everybody was so enamored with what Jesse was doing, and people talk shit about him and say he's this or that, but he's responsible for that chopper craze.
Yeah.
And really for a lot of what's still going on today. I think if those TV shows don't come out and he's not doing what he's doing.
Yeah, a lot of us ain't.
I don't know if we're sitting here doing what we're doing right now. I mean,
100%.
That's a lot to put on his shoulders, but there's still, I mean, there's guys like, I still feel like Arlen Ness is probably the king of all of it, in my opinion, maybe. But
a lot of like the guys like Ness and all those Hamsters and all those guys, they had that shit. But as far as like this cultural icon movement of just like giving so many people like a direction, I think that it was Jesse James's like raw attitude and bikes he built on top of pushing that working class kind of, like tradesman kind of mentality into everybody, which like I think those two, like everything he was is what spoke to guys like me. Coming out of high school, I was going to be a draftsman, architect, and I'm sitting here watching Monster Garage going,
Monster Garage was there.
That looks kind of fun. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
That looks cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he's, like I say, I don't think that we would be sitting here talking about this if, maybe it would have been somebody different, but it wasn't. It was him. And I mean, I can remember June of '97. Hot Bikes got a picture of Jesse on an orange bike with purple flames doing a wheelie.
Yeah.
And that particular cover was something that jump started me into motorcycling too. I saw that and I was like, fuck. And so I started kind of following him. I got out of the Army. I buy this Ultra jackhammer, and I asked the dealer I bought it from to order me a West Coast chopper fender. Mm-hmm. He's like, you don't want to buy a fender from that guy. He's like, he's here today. He's gone tomorrow.
Wow.
And I was like, So I ended up not ordering the fender.
Yeah.
Because he was so adamant that it wasn't going to be anything big. And then as it blew up, I think everybody was just like, holy shit, But chopper dogs, dude, a lot of people, they hate on it, but it was a great time in my life. I mean, it was, you get off work, go home, drink beer, you talk to all these people that are into the same thing that you're into.
Yeah.
Regardless of how big of a fanboy you were, we were all fans together.
I'm sure y'all weren't all just like, hey, did you see what Jesse James did today?
No,
it was like y'all had your own conversations.
Well, it was kind of like, I compare it, Jason, I make fun of now about if you put a Dyna or an FXR on Instagram. Hey, what fairing is that?
Yeah.
Hey, how long are your forks? Hey, what wheels are those? What air cleaner is that? What seat is that? It was the same way at that particular time on Chopper Dogs. It was, hey, is that a 4-up? Yeah. What trees you running? Oh, 6. What tubes you running?
Yeah.
Okay, well, how is your frame 4 inches level, or is it deraked, or I mean, it was the same kind of stuff. It was just with choppers. I mean, except everybody on the board, the majority of the guys that were on the board wanted to own a West Coast chopper. Just didn't have the financial means to do it. There was a couple of guys that did. I mean, but everybody was just, I don't know. It was, and Jesse at the time was cool. I mean, he would actually get on there and answer questions, and he'd throw people a bone, give shit away. I mean, he interacted. I mean, he did. He was a part of it on a pretty regular basis, And then some shit got carried away. I think people tried to abuse some of the, him answering questions and. It was probably for him.
The trolls came along.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody wanted to be Jesse's friend. Everybody that was on the board can say whatever they want, me included.
Yeah.
If that dude would have called and said, hey, you want to go to lunch? Motherfuckers would have mortgaged their house to get on a plane and fly to eat lunch with him at the time. I mean, that was just how it was. So everybody kind of, everybody that was probably a working class blue collar guy that was on that board wanted to be fucking Jesse James for a minute. You know? I mean, I don't know. It was cool for me. I met a lot of good people, like say Jason, Brad, Dundee. I mean, there's probably, if I sat down and thought about it, I could name several people, but it was, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Instagram. At the time, I don't even know if MySpace was part of what we were doing. Everybody was so into choppers and not just choppers, but specifically West Coast choppers.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason and I call it the gold rush era. I mean, when bikes were bringing, $100,000, $125,000, $150,000. I mean, and then your biker build-off stuff kicked off, and it kicked it even to a
so
different
y'all were kind of doing all this stuff before the biker build-off stuff. It was more just a motorcycle mania era. Mm-hmm. Like, what'd y'all think whenever the biker build-off stuff started kicking off? Was it like, oh hell yeah, that was badass, or was it? Me
and my buddies used to meet at the local bar. We'd all ride to the local bar and watch the biker build-offs and drink together. I mean, it was for me. at that time, it was like, I'm a huge baseball fan, but it was like watching World Series games or something. I mean, I couldn't wait for the biker build-offs to come out, and there was a lot of people that would talk shit about it and hate on it, but for that industry and wanting to be involved in that industry, where else were you going to see that? Where else were you going to watch that or be part of that? Yeah, I mean, that was your only outlet, was waiting for discovery.
I remember when I was working with Other Side Customs, and they were on there with Rick Fairless and who else was it? It was Rick Fairless versus Matt Hotch. I remember we all went to some big ass bar, and we were all sitting at a table, and Gary and the guy that owns Other Side Customs and all his friends and all the people that worked there. It was a huge deal. And all he said, the only words that Gary said on the whole fucking thing was, I don't even remember now. It's been so long since we made a joke about it, but it was just three words. And, we coined that phrase forever, like fucking with him. But it was cool, that whole era. It was just cool seeing all this stuff and how much popularity it was. You didn't have, the only way you could be that big was to be on TV. You know what I mean? You couldn't, nowadays, there are guys, I say this all the time, but with social media, it's the t-shirt guys are more popular than the bike builders, and the bike builders are they're more standoffish, not standoffish in a bad way. They're more behind the scenes and not in the limelight. And the ones that are in the limelight usually aren't that fucking great, or whatever. I mean, I don't know, but it just seems like everybody that's anybody in this industry is just somebody that really doesn't do anything other than make a flannel or
it's changed a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some people in the motorcycle industry that are so incredibly talented that and you wonder why certain guys that do a certain thing are more popular than maybe some guy that is way more talented. But there's different aspects. I mean, there's some people that appreciate the talent, and then there's some people that just appreciate.
Well, this is I've been thinking about this a lot, right? So I think that the reason is that when we saw those TV shows, we didn't just see a snap of a cool fender they made. Honestly, we really didn't see a whole lot of the actual process. We saw dudes on those TV shows, bending shit over their knee, and then we saw their lifestyle, and I think that more of us were into that. This dude, he's got the life. He's building bikes all day. He's hanging out. He's riding choppers. He's going across country. Look at Billy Lane. He's probably fucked every girl at that fucking party. I think that the more I think about it, I think that we were more interested in that lifestyle. The bikes were cool. The bikes were badass, and the bikes were the glue or the honey dick, right? But it really was just seeing these dudes living this life that, even if it is for the show, I think that that's what people were really more connected to.
Oh, I agree. And the guys and the girls. I mean, there was so many girls on the Chopper Dogs board, but it was almost a cult.
Did y'all have a Titty Tuesday or anything like that?
Yeah, there was some guys that were doing something. I don't remember if it was Titty Tuesday or something. I mean, there was shit on there every week with something like that. But it was almost a cult following.
Yeah.
Jesse was doing his thing, and then Biker Build-Off started, and people were doing stuff. But I mean, even though you may have liked the Biker Build-Off, or you may have liked this guy, we were all so pro Jesse that anything anybody else did, we were like, yeah, fuck that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, we were to a point that, I mean, I can remember going out to the Long Beach for the first time and driving up to West Coast Choppers and getting out and walking in, and I was just like, fuck, man, there was the holy grail of choppers for me. Yeah. I mean, I knew, I'm like, I'll never afford one of these bikes ever.
Yeah.
But it was like the holy grail of choppers for me. It was, but it was kind of weird because it was personal, but it really wasn't, because nobody at West Coast Choppers wanted you there.
Yeah.
They hated you. They hated everything about you, why you were there. So it was really strange because everybody wanted to be there. I mean, the lines were, you'd have to wait in line for an hour sometimes to get in the shop.
Yeah.
It was like fucking Disneyland. And nobody at the shop wanted anybody there, but everybody wanted to be there. So, the Chopper Dogs had a little bit different element because they got to do some behind the scenes stuff. More so Jason, Brad, and some other guys. I didn't always probably follow the leader like I was supposed to, but there was some cool stuff for the Chopper Dogs. But I think it just got to be like Disneyland. I mean, I think it got so crazy and out of control that they couldn't control it. I mean,
So did the Chopper Dogs pretty much go on completely until he left? There, and then when he came to Austin, it was kind of over after that, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was phasing out towards like Monster Garage closing out, him wanting to get rid of the shop. I mean, and like I say, I don't know Jesse on a personal level, so I don't know all the specifics of what went on about. Chopper Dogs did start to become a lot of drama. I mean, there was starting to be a lot of, I think Jesse was, to be as crazy popular as he was, and have all the greatness that he had, and be at the pinnacle of the motorcycle industry. There was still something missing a little bit because a lot of small things bothered him. I mean, like the first real ass chewing I ever had in the motorcycle industry, or anybody really jumped my shit, was Jesse, about a bike that I built that it was. I kind of tried to pinch Kid Rock's bike. I mean, that was my goal. But I was young, stupid, and at the time, I didn't get copying other people's shit. It wasn't I never would ever put myself at the level of what he was doing. I just wanted a bike that kind of looked like that. Yeah. So, I mean, So it's kind of funny that he would hold you to the standard of an equal level builder. Yeah, I mean, it was funny because he just sends this scathing fucking deal on Chopper Dogs. I mean, not in private. I mean, it's a public deal, and he's just ripping my ass. But he's being complimentary at the same time, kind of. Yeah. But I mean, the bike I built was nowhere near in comparison to what he had done for Kid Rock. It was just, I love that bike. I did something similar, and and it pissed him off. He was fucking pissed, like, ripped me this fucking full page fucking in front of everybody about copying his shit, and that his bikes were Ferraris and mine was a Fiero with a GT kit. I mean, just, which was funny. I mean, it really was funny. And at the time I was like, fuck. And everybody's like, are you gonna say anything? And I'm like, no, because it's like you're in his house though. Yeah. But he was right. I mean, I did copy that bike. Mm-hmm. And I meant no harm by it, but I love that bike so much. I never thought I was going to be a motorcycle builder per se, or be in the motorcycle business. I thought, okay, I'm never going to have that bike, so I'm going to get close. Well, at the time, I didn't know that was something you shouldn't do. Yeah. I was just a fucking kid that wanted to be like Jesse James, so.
Even if it wasn't for financial gain, I mean.
I lost my ass on that bike. Funny.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. It's not like you're trying to build it to sell it as your own build. It was something that you're building for yourself. I mean, people are like, that looks like Kid Rock's bike. I'm like, fuck yeah, I know. All right. I mean, I had a paint job done that was not identical, but pretty close, and chrome frame, orange tins, black wheels. I mean, I used spokes, not mags, but I had the single down tube with the holes in it, and there was some stuff Jesse was doing on rear fenders that even Jason, he was like, I don't know how you caught onto that, but he was doing some stuff to his rear fenders that nobody knew he was doing, and I figured it out. So I did it on this bike, and on his fender struts, he always had that curved fender strut on all the bikes and had the blind holes from the inside. I had some machined and welded them onto this frame, and I mean, it wasn't as good of a copy, but for an El Diablo at the time, I don't know that anybody had tried to knock off an El Diablo style Softail frame. Yeah. And I won't even say close, but it was decent. I mean, and the karma of the whole deal was, I got the bike finished, took a couple pictures, I rode it one night home. The next day I rode it and got it inspected. Took it to New Orleans the following day and for the Steel Pony run in 2005, and it got stolen that night. Wow. Yeah. Never saw it again. Sucks. And you were still getting reamed for it, even if it was gone? Well, it was a big joke, but everybody's like, Jesse stole that shit, right? I mean, that was the fucking joke, But it ended up being, I mean, we found out more about it, but there was 42 bikes stolen in one night, the Steel Pony run. Damn.
and it was all set up by the promoters of the show.
Wow.
In the probably the most name, like as far as builders, Dave Perowitz got a bike stolen.
For real?
Yeah, and so I ended up getting in contact with Dave about his bike, and long story short, Dave got his bike back. What they were doing is the promoters, the city of New Orleans, police officers, a bunch of officials, they set this whole deal up.
Wow.
Still stealing the bikes and then brokering them back to the individual. So there was a number you could call and talk to these people, and you could buy your bike back.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's some fucking mafia shit, man.
Yeah.
So how did all that play out?
Well, some of the guys that were fortunate enough to be privy to the information of how things went down, that made the calls early, got their shit back. Mm-hmm. A guy like me that was some no-name from Abilene, didn't have any money. I couldn't have bought my bike back if I wanted to, because I didn't have any fucking money. I'd spend it all on this bike. I finally got the phone number. This guy was an attorney, and he had a name like a big mafia name. I mean, it was like Al Ambrosio something or another, you know. So I call the dude and talk to him. Yeah. And he's like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna be $10,000. This is how you're gonna have to do it. And I'm like, you're gonna have to give me a couple of days, because I don't have that kind of money. I mean, I'm making $380 a week at FedEx or whatever. Yeah. I don't have that kind of money. You have to give me a couple of days. He's like, I'll give you 48 hours. So I think it took me 72 to try to get a bank loan, and then I called the number back, and it was disconnected. Wow. Never existed. So that's wild. I mean, there was a guy on the board at the time that I'd sold a bunch of parts to. So I loaded my bike in the trailer. I'd sold this dude. I was a dealer for Custom Chrome at the time. Mm-hmm. Sold this dude like $15,000 worth of parts. Piled them in the backseat of this Dodge pickup I had bought. Loaded the bike in the trailer. My wife and I took off. We get to the parking lot at this hotel. It's the Lowe's Hotel in New Orleans. We park. I meet this dude there. He stops by. I pull the bike out of the trailer. I ride it around the parking lot. He sees it. I load it up, lock it up, and I come out the next morning. My truck's gone. The trailer's gone. The bike's gone. All the parts are gone. Everything, and the parts had already been paid for. So I was delivering them. So I had to go back, borrow money, pay this dude that had bought parts from me. I had to buy his parts. So it was another $15,000 out of my pocket. The bike had no insurance on it. So every dime I'd put in that bike was gone.
So you had two stolen that way?
No, that's the same story that I'm telling you.
I mean, so that was a part of it?
That was
the parts were on top of it?
Wow.
So the parts were on top of it that I had sold him. And so it was basically every dime I'd ever saved in the Army. It pretty much wiped me out. I mean, it hurt.
How did you,
bad.
like, how do you, bouncing back from that, what was that like? I mean, shit, dude. Like, I mean, I couldn't imagine like being in this business and like, you know, like having, I don't know, man. Like that's mind blowing.
It hurt. I mean, it financially, it crushed me for a while. I mean, it took me. That was in 2005. I'm trying to think of the bike that I built after that, if it was a CFL or not, but it probably took another 3 years to kind of, you know, and it probably would. It may have broke most people as far as their spirit, but you know, at the time, my wife's dad had been diagnosed with cancer, and I can remember building that bike and spending. I was working at FedEx till 4 or 5. I'd get off work, go to my shop, work till 2 or 3 in the morning, go home, get up at 5:30, go to FedEx. And I was doing this, and I wasn't going. I was running from my father-in-law because I was so close to him. I was running from him passing or being sick. So I would not go to the hospital. I wouldn't visit him. And he had a really cool car at the time. And there was a cruise night coming up in Abilene. And that was one of the things we always did together. So instead of going to cruise night with him that night, which at the time I didn't know would be his last one. I didn't know that. I should have been paying attention. But I chose to stay and finish that bike. Mm. So after the bike got stolen and I got back, I just, in my mind, it was kind of a karma thing for me. Like, I learned, like, hey, that bike was cool to you, but it wasn't near as important as spending time with your father-in-law that was dying of cancer, or your wife that was dealing with her dad dying of cancer. So it was me being selfish. So honestly, when it got stolen, my wife was freaked out. I think I walked around New Orleans the night it got stolen, probably for 4 or 5 hours, just walking up and down streets until finally this police officer pulled up and he's like, are you looking for something? And I told him, he's like, you need to go back to the hotel. He goes, somebody will kill you. He goes, you're in the wrong place to be walking around.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know any better. I was just young, stupid. I'd never been to New Orleans, So I went back, and then I just started reflecting on what actually happened. I didn't have any insurance. At the time, I didn't think there was any chance I could get it back. So I'm like, all right, lesson learned. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
And then I just fucking moved on. I mean,
yeah, it's that's got to be tough, man. Like, but it always seems like things happen like that. Like when you invest so much into something like that in a more selfish kind of way, like you were saying, even though like obviously when you're doing it, you're probably not thinking like, oh yeah, fuck everybody else,
Yeah, but I mean, I think to be honest, at the time, I was pretty much saying fuck everything else. I mean, I was so focused it almost became. Yeah, it still does now. I'm not gonna lie. There's days you get a project. I know, and you're probably the same way, and you may be the same way. You get a project in your mind or something you want to do, you'll lay awake at night thinking about paint jobs and wheels and tires and big wheels and T-bars and what exhaust and what seat and literally it becomes it's almost an addiction, man. Yeah, I mean, really for me it is.
Anything.
Yeah, I mean it is. And at the time for me, I didn't have kids. My wife worked, I worked, and all I gave a shit about was going to my shop and building those bikes and working on those bikes. And I'm trying to think how many I had built. I had built a bike. The first bike I built, I sold it to a guy. It went to Florida. And then I built 2 more bikes for customers before I built that bike. And then I built that one. And it hurt. Mentally, financially, it hurt more than anything. But it was such a learning lesson for me. Such a huge slap in the face that I don't really think. I mean, it set me back financially because I didn't have any insurance. I sued State Farm because it was in the trailer. The trailer had insurance because it was hooked to my truck and my homeowner's policy and all this other stuff. And I learned too that if you have a tax ID number and you have a business license, none of your regular homeowners is going to cover it. They're going to say, we have a business, you should have business insurance. So I ended up suing State Farm because I think the total loss between the bike, truck, trailer, everything, probably somewhere in the 75G range, probably for everything that it hit me for. And they ended up writing me a check for $2,000 for some bullshit. I don't even remember what the $2,000
that was what they were trying to pay for $75,000 with the shit for $2,000.
That's what I ended up with, $2,000.
Wow.
I got $2,000. And what's even funnier is the truck and the trailer. They find the truck and the trailer a couple days later, and they want me to come back to New Orleans and identify. I go, just send me a picture of it.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, we need you to come in person. I'm like, listen, I just lost my life savings. I'm work for FedEx. I'm making no money. I can't afford another trip to New Orleans right now. So I have real bad sinus problems from being in the military and being in the gas chamber and doing a bunch of other shit. Anyway, so I used to snort bamboo salt because it would clear up my sinuses. So they find a pill bottle with bamboo salt in it with no label on it. So they wanted me to come to New Orleans because they thought it was cocaine. So they were more worried about what I had in that pill bottle than they were my shit being stolen, because I think at the time
it's probably the same cops that took it.
They all knew who was involved,
it's more lucrative for them.
Yeah, it was crazy, and really, I'm a Dave Perowitz fan now, but after that happened, because I thought at the time he knew what happened, that he knew what was going on, and that he could have helped other people. That's what I thought. After I found out later on that he was in the same boat as everybody else, that his shit just got stolen, and he was a little more well-known, had a few contacts that could reach out a little harder than I could. Yeah. So he was fortunate enough to get his bike back, And there may have been one other guy, but everybody else just fucking took it right in the mouth.
That sucks.
So, but you know what? And people ask me all the time, man, are you bitter? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm not. It was
I'd say burn that motherfucker down, dude.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. It just was such an eye-opening thing for me to think, you shouldn't have been working on that bike. You should have been riding around with your father-in-law. You should have been going over there and, consoling your wife or doing some different things. So it just was such a huge eye-opener for me that I was like, all right, fuck it, man. Let's go. Let's move on.
Damn.
And so, and ever since then, I think it's probably put a lot of perspective in my life when shit happens. I mean, bikes falling off trailers or laying them over doing stupid shit or whatever. I'm like, at the end of the day, they're just bikes. I mean,
yeah.
Which
you can get more. You can make another one. You can replace it. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's a good point, man. That you really lose a lot of time. Like that's the one thing you don't get back is any kind of fucking time. You know what I mean? So you can use that both ways. Either you had the time or the health to do certain things on a bike, and now when you finally decide or get the balls to do it, now you don't have the health anymore or the time or whatever the case may be. So
and one of the things that I should have learned from that is you should insure everything.
Yeah. And
really all it did was make me hate insurance companies so bad that I'm like, fuck them. I'm not insuring nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, the orange FXR that I built coming back from Sturgis in 17,
yeah.
I get it back here and it's sitting on the trailer and I'm, me, because I trailered it there and back, so you give me all the shit you want, But I'm like, I want to run down to the car wash and just rinse it off real quick. And I make it a block from my house and the motherfucker falls off the trailer. And doesn't do a lot of damage, but in the grand scheme, it does a whole bunch of damage.
Yeah, everything on that bike was custom, so.
Well, I had the bike insured and was paying a bunch of money for insurance. File a claim on the bike, and they want to give me $3,500, take the bike, and it was another fucking insurance thing.
FXR Mike dealt with this too, where the, he has a full fairing bike. It was an RP, I believe, and it dropped, right, and it messed up some stuff, and they were trying to give him like the bike was only worth $5,000 or some shit. I was like, and so he had all this extra, like $10,000 of extra coverage on this bike. And it's like, if you're an insurance company and you're going to sell me extra coverage, but you're only going to insure my bike for $5,000, but I got $10,000 of coverage, and you're going to total it if it goes, over 70% of $5,000. That makes no fucking sense. Like, why would you accept all my money for this extra coverage if you're going to try to stop me right here? You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what they did. I went down to where I buy my insurance and I said, listen, this is what I've done. Here's a bunch of receipts for everything I've done. I want to get at least $25,000, whatever the maximum I can get for this bike as an actual cash value. I want to get $25,000. So they're like, all right. So I start paying insurance. Well, then I come to find out the $25,000 is something they called actual cash value. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're totaling my bike, I should get the actual cash value. No, it doesn't work like that. There was some other bullshit loophole about, so they started off at $3,500, and the dealership, I let the Harley dealership in Abilene do the estimate, just so that, because insurance companies seem to work a little better with franchise dealers, so they do the estimate at like 16 and some change. So they want to total it, and I'm like, that's fine if you want to total it. Give me the 25, you can keep the bike. Well, they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. So we ended up settling at $12,500 or something like that. And I said, the only way I'll take $12,500 is if you keep the title clean to where you don't salvage title the bike, because the bike was hurt, but it was mostly cosmetic, but just because of some, the Kraus front end and the Olin shocks and that high dollar billet primary and the paint, so it was hurt, but it was the value of the stuff that was hurt more than it was the bike being hurt.
The structure.
So they agreed to $12,500. We'll keep the title clean. They send me a check. I cash the check. No sooner than the fucking check cashed, they fucking mark the title salvage.
Wow.
And so I call them and raise 9 kinds of hell with them, and they're like, no, we never said that. So I hate insurance. I think it's organized crime. I don't like it.
Agree.
I mean, all my friends are like, who's that insured with? I'm like, it's not. Why insure it? They're going to fuck my socks off me anyway, so why should I insure it? I mean, and I hate being that way, but I mean, I think insurance, especially motorcycle insurance, and maybe they've been fucked because I know that for a while there was a lot of guys doing a lot of shady shit with it. I get it, but
yeah, well then if that's the case, then they don't need to fucking do insurance,
right? Don't offer it, but
dude. All the big wheel shit I did back in the day in NorCal, all insurance money. These dudes, like up there, they could do stated value. They'll have an appraiser come out, appraise the bike. This bike's worth $70,000. It's a basic 26. Nothing crazy at all. And they fucking push it over in their goddamn garage and then get a $40,000 goddamn check. No questions asked. I mean, they were paying the money for a $70,000 bike on their insurance every month, but it was, they weren't dealing, they didn't have to fight with them that much. And then you come here and they want to nickel and dime you. They want to take, let's say you put 10 grand of coverage on your bike, right? And you drop it or whatever. They want to charge you on your custom, that 10 grand, the labor to take that aftermarket part off, that labor comes out of the 10 grand. This comes out of the 10 grand. This comes out of the 10 grand. So that shit goes pretty quick. Geico used to do it like this. I don't know if they do it anymore. So if you had, let's say, 5 grand in coverage, right? You wreck your bike. It comes with a radio, right? The stock radio and a bagger. Well, that radio gets fucked up. Well, the stock radio's 2 grand. Your aftermarket radio was 800. So that doesn't affect your custom insurance because we were already going to have to pay $2,000 for this radio. So my orange bike back in the day got wrecked or got pushed over at a bank. Like a dude backed up into it, knocked it over. Just knocked it over. Just fucking couple scratches here and there, nothing major. $8,000 check, right? I bought an iPad. I got some shoes. I fixed my stuff. I fucking was balling out of control for like 3 months.
The several baggers that I have not done a bunch of big wheel baggers, but several of the baggers that I've worked on that guys in Abilene have fixed up.
Yeah.
It's because they dropped their bike and got huge insurance checks. And I'm fine if they want to do a stated value, because I wasn't paying $11 a month for insurance. I mean, I was paying $164 a month for what I thought was this good policy, because I did have a motorcycle stolen, and I guess if my bike would have been stolen, they probably would have paid me 25 grand. But they told me I could go back to the agent that sold me the policy, that if she didn't state it to me correctly, you can file these lawsuits. I forget what they call them, E&Os, error and omissions or something like that.
That's like throwing someone back down the...
But I wouldn't do... I'm not going to go back to that girl that's working at the Harley dealership making $10 an hour selling their fucking insurance, because she's the one that gets in trouble. The dealership doesn't. The agent that sold you the insurance is the one that you have to go after.
Yeah.
I'm like, that girl's just trying to feed her kids. She's probably just selling the policy based on what some knucklehead from Dairyland came and told her.
Yeah.
Or sent through a computer.
Was it Dairyland?
Yeah, fuck yeah. And I mean, fuck them. If you're listening to Dairyland, fuck you. I don't like y'all. I mean, I don't. And State Farm too. Fuck State Farm, because they fucked me on the bike that got stolen. So, yeah, I mean,
I hate dealing with insurance. His bike, he wrecked on our little ride we did 2 weeks ago. He Kyle caught a fucking. It was wet. It was so fucking wet out there.
Slimy wet.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it's like these back roads. Like we had rode them not too long ago, and it was fun as hell. And I think this mic's going out, man. It sucks. It's not. I don't know. It's weird. But we were. Yeah. Let me try that real quick. Let me see if I can swap this out. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. So we were going to. We did this little bike ride where we all went out to. We were actually going to, what was it, Horny Toad Bar and Grill. It's like in Cransville's Gap. Okay. It's a little bit closer to here than like where you guys are at. But a couple weeks back, before that, we had went on a ride and went to Loco Coyote, which is another bar out in like Glen Rose.
Okay.
And it was super fucking nice, man. Roads were tight. And then, I've been on this kick where I want to like push myself, hitting corners and riding hard. And so I want to go hit some real twisty roads, and that was the deal. And then we get out there. It's a chill day. It's not too hot, not too cold, kind of overcast. And as soon as we get to the part where the curves are and the car in front of us gets out of the way, it's fucking like slimy on the road. It wasn't like raining, but just the moisture in the air and all that stuff just kind of played a part into the into the road. So like at first I was in front, I hit it, I'm fucking like, yeah, finally, yeah, we're here. And then I go to the first corner and I felt that back wheel kind of just slide a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, so I'm gonna chill out on this. And dude, there was 20 something bikes with us or so.
Yeah, we did a little squad.
And I was like, I'm legit, the first thing I thought about, was like, damn, like I just set the example for what everybody else just did. And so everybody else is going to hit it. Everybody else is going to take this corner hard. And fortunately, nobody went down on the first corner, but we just get through it. And some of the roads got tighter and some of them got this. And then, when you're the guy in the front and then you look back and you're like, okay, nobody's behind me now. And then you kind of slow down. You're like, nobody's coming. All right, let me turn around. Then I turned around and I was, at this point, like I'm thinking to myself, which one of the 20 dudes went down?
I was caught between two groups where the thing was like, y'all knew the turn was coming, and the people behind me didn't know it was coming. I was kind of like by myself, and then I looked to my left, and I saw everyone made the turn. It was too late at that point for me to make that turn, so...
Yeah.
So y'all made it. The people behind me saw me in the ditch, so it was like I was the example.
Oh, shit.
Well, it wasn't, I mean...
At least you didn't get hurt bad, though.
Oh, I didn't get hurt at all.
Good.
It just sucked because he was trying to trade the bike in. It's a 2016 Street Ball. He's trying to trade it up to go to either an 18 or 19 bagger.
Yeah.
And so I was literally talking to a dealership here and there, and he was going to trade it in, and he was waiting on an income tax return too. And it's like this happened. So, and it sucks because like the value of that bike. Like we had other homeboys in our group that traded theirs in the same year and everything, and got like 14 grand to 12 grand, and then all of a sudden this bike's worth 10.5 now, but the trade-in value's 8. It's a weird deal, you know what I mean? So
I think you're seeing a lot of that across the board. I mean, talking about the value of Harleys. I mean, from the time when I first started getting into this business and I got my dealer's license, and I was selling bikes too when I first started, just for additional income, because being a one-man shop, and Jason and I have hit on this, he may have talked about it with you, but if you're answering the phone, cleaning the bathrooms, ordering parts, changing tires, changing oil, I didn't have any employees. I had to do it all. Well, fuck, you can only change so many tires a day or change oil and then still do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've got to find a way to make a little bit more money and still be able to build a few bikes, not just do fucking service work. So I started selling bikes. But I mean, when I first started dealing with bike stuff, I mean, you were still having to get on a list to even buy a bike if you wanted one. There wasn't like you just went into a dealership and there was 40 fucking Dynas in there, you know, 20 Street Glides. I mean, it was... They might get 1 or 2 baggers in. They might get a Dyna, and there'd be a couple of Sportsters, and the residual value of the bikes, or the trade-in value, the wholesale value. I mean, you could buy one, and then in a couple of years, it might be worth the same amount of money, maybe worth a little more. But you're seeing that decline so rapidly that I've been going to NPA sale here in Carrollton for 20 years, or I say 20 years, probably not quite 20, but. For 15, yeah, since 05 probably. I mean, and slowly watching the bikes over there bring an astronomical amount of money, but then everywhere else I see you couldn't hardly get rid of one. I mean, and you're starting to see that again with Harley, that there's so many of them out there that, this whole deal with the market share with Harley.
It's almost like inflation in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see what, I mean, I was going to buy a Fat Bob. When the Fat Bobs
I remember you was talking about that on Jason's podcast.
Yeah, I really wanted one. I mean, I went and priced it, and they, turnkey. It was going to be. I had the 114, and it was like 23 grand for a Fat Bob out the door.
That's fucking insane.
And I bought a 15 Road Glide, and I didn't give that for the 15 Road Glide. And I just said, dude, I can't do it. I just don't see, because as soon as I leave with that bike in a couple of months. That bike's going to be worth 12 grand, 14 grand, 15 grand at the very most. And I'm going to go dump money into it. I just can't see the value in it, And I don't know what Harley's going to do. I mean, Jason and I have talked extensively about it. I've talked to a few other people.
Well, usually what happens on Jason's podcast is you bring up a good point and then Jason
runs with it. Yeah, well, that's all right. I mean, he's very analytical. He's very articulate.
Well, he did post recently about the profits. Did you see that post that he made about?
Yeah, that from
Bare Knuckle Paul had put something out on Instagram, and I saw it. So I just, instead of me trying to talk to Jason about it, I just forwarded it through him through Instagram. Like, hey, read this and tell me what I should think, kind of a deal. So we started, but we've been talking about it for a while, because at some point in time, that market's going to crash. When you start producing and producing and producing, and then, I know that when the new bikes first came out, there was a lot of people that fucking hated it. And then you had a few guys who were like, listen, don't be a dick, embrace it and run with it. And I understand why some of those guys were saying that, because that was their livelihood. They had to say, hey, these are the bikes coming out. If I'm going to work on them, I've got to kind of push it. But truth be told, I don't know that anybody was real happy. I mean, you change the entire platform, you get rid of some models, but then you have the same chassis and you had 12 fucking different models with one chassis. It's like a Lego kit almost. I just don't see where you increase the value of that product. I mean, because there's only a few minor differences in all of it. I don't think you increase the value of it. And I don't think Harley's in touch with their fucking demographic at all. You don't raise the prices on motorcycles and then try to reach the younger crowd. I mean, I don't get that. I just don't. Millennials are, and I use that term loosely because I don't even know enough about what millennials really are. But I mean, there's a lot of people that they want a vehicle to get back and forth to work right now. They don't want a $25,000 fucking Dyna. I mean, they can't afford it for one. Yeah. Or even, like Sportsters were $14,000. Like for a Nightster or Roadster or some of these Sportsters, they were $14,000-$15,000.
Yeah, it's insane. But I think that with Indian dropping that FTR, it had to light a fire under Harley's ass financially. Well, here's the deal: the FTR has been announced. We've seen pictures. We've seen this, but it hasn't been released. Right. So there's no FTRs on the road right now. Right. But at that price point, and with all that shit that's on those fucking bikes, I expect those things to sell out the ass.
I think they will.
Unfortunately, the rest of Indian's line and the other unfortunate thing that it's Indian is gonna always, it doesn't follow suit. But if anything, that for that market, for that $15,000 to $20,000 market, Harley can't compete with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like our buddy Mark from Texas Performance, he's proven alone that those bikes can handle. They can do more than what Dynas can do. But you're still looking at such an increased price tag to get on that platform that even guys like in our little group of friends, we've had a Sport Glide, two brand new Sport Glides be purchased, a lowrider, a new lowrider, and then you were on the fence because we had talked when you were on the podcast originally. You were on the fence about a new bike, and then it turned into a bagger. And he said your point was
it's all price point.
You didn't want to do a lateral move. Is that how?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to do a lateral move from going from a Dyna into the new Softail line, which is great, but I mean, at a price point where you're it's almost twice what a Dyna costs just to go, to a little bit, just to go across the next platform. It's not that. I mean, at that point, you may as well just get a bagger.
Right.
I mean,
and I think the new bike does have potential, and I think it probably handles better. And I do like the new design of the motor. I think it's great. I think there's a lot of options for that too, especially for guys that like big horsepower motors.
Yeah, it's easy to get over
right now. Yeah, big time. But I still think they're just. I don't know. I just think that Harley. And I think if Harley, and this is my opinion, I don't have any real facts to base this on, but Harley tries to fuck the aftermarket motorcycle industry every chance they get.
Yeah, they do.
They send cease and desist letters and they're trying to put people out of business, and all the different regulations that Harley imposes on, guys that have an independent shop that are going to a Harley dealership to buy parts to fix their customer's bike instead of having any kind of working relationship. I mean, I know there's a few because I have one.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that I hear that are just getting their socks fucked off because Harley says fuck them. If you took and completely got rid of the aftermarket Harley Davidson industry,
it would be an
what
Indian.
Would they be?
Nothing.
If you took that aftermarket industry
that we have, Indian.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. But if you took the aftermarket that we have and put that towards a different brand of motorcycle, Indian, Victory tried a little bit.
it would change things up a little bit. You're going to see the aftermarket Indian stuff. You're going to see a push in it. I mean,
I want to agree. I completely agree about the aftermarket, because that is what makes Harley great. I mean, Harley builds a great platform and the history, but then you add, the big wheel flavor, and that creates a whole industry. You add the chopper flavor, that creates a whole industry. You add this FXR Dyna it creates that whole industry, and that boom. No one's like, fuck, man, this stock Harley's the shit. I just love the fact that it's stock. Oh, like nobody's fucking saying that.
I know. And that's what I don't understand with Harley.
And a whole industry is like satellite to this hub. Your Vance and Hines, PM, fucking, Arlen Ness, all this whole world of satellites around, Earth Harley, and all these things is what makes this thing get bigger and bigger and bigger. But now they want to be Arlen Ness, and bitch, you're Harley. Just be fucking Harley.
So the question is, why don't they listen? Or who the fuck are they listening to? And it's got to be shareholders.
Shareholders, yeah.
Because all they care about now is profit. I get that. But there's not going to be any profit if they don't start changing their shit. Because they truly don't give a fuck about their riders. I don't give a shit what they say.
The other the really weird thing is, and I never wanted to say this to try to like stunt anything, but you have Harley, right? Last year they give Horsepower Inc., San Diego Customs, Kraus, Pop's Garage, I think is one of them, and a couple other, all these brand new Softails to build custom bikes to take to Born Free and then take to the 115th, right? Is that what it was last year, 115th?
I believe so.
So they give them all these bikes and they take them to these deals, right? And I was always joking with Jimmy from HPI. I'm like, everything you sell voids warranties, right? And I'm not trying to like saying that it's probably like bad for their business. I don't know. But it's just like technically like putting your throttle body on them is technically supposed to void their warranty because of whatever, So I don't want to take away from them, but why would Harley give them a bike to build if everything this company sells is against what their model is to the dealerships? And the other weird thing is, I know dealerships in Cali and Arizona that seem to don't give a fuck about what Harley thinks and does whatever they want. They'll fucking have Saddlemen fucking seat stations in their stuff. They'll have Dixon flannels in their shit. They'll have fucking, whatever wheel, exhaust, whatever company is there, they have their shit because they know that's what their market wants. And then you come here and I go to talk to Horny Toad, which I have good friends that work at down in Temple, Texas. And he's like, their dealership just is bland. He's like, well, we're not supposed to try to push anything out of the drag book. We're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, they're doing it on the West Coast, and these dealerships seem to be the bigger than fucking life out there. So why don't you do it? Well, we don't want to get in trouble and blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
dealership in Abilene's the same way.
For real?
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, it is every single thing they do is out of the Harley catalog. Until just recently, they started putting spooky fast bars on a couple of baggers. That's it. But I mean, they don't want to sell you stuff out of drag. They want to sell you Harley seats. They want to sell you Harley windshields. They want to sell you Harley clothes.
Why are these dumb dealerships so fucking stupid?
Because I think Harley's bluffed them for so long. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, the legalities of what a Harley dealership can and can't do as far as what they can and can't sell. I mean, Harley may say, listen, if you have more than a certain number of percentage of this in your dealership, we're going to come in and shut you down. I mean, and they probably strong arm the fuck out of people. Probably.
Yeah, but like they're stunning these dealerships of growing culture in their own towns. Like think about it. When these Harley dealerships, which is technically the hub for information for a large majority of bikers, right? Not every biker's on Instagram and Facebook and in our little scene, right? So the dealership is the hub for a lot of information, a lot of style and trends and this, that, and the other. And then they could be selling these products that are popular, and they're popular for a reason, right? Dixon flannel is popular because it's a fucking nice flannel,
sure,
and everybody wants it. But Harley's not putting them in their dealerships, or they weren't for a long time, because it's not a Harley product. When it's like, dude, like...
But I can't answer why they do that shit. I don't know why there's so much animosity towards the guys, the independent guys outside of the Harley franchise
that have done so much for Harley Davidson.
You know what I think it is? I think that the powers to be in that situation, they don't ride bikes.
No, absolutely not. Fuck that. I know they don't. But they still want, I mean, the shareholders, they're shareholders because they give a shit about money.
Yeah.
If Harley wanted to take the whole fucking market over, they probably could with a couple of different models and an aftermarket parts line or do something. Or if they embraced the aftermarket industry in any way, there's no telling where they could go. But I don't understand why they don't. Maybe it's EPA or regulations.
What about the other thing where they allowed Amazon to start doing their motor clothes? Motor clothes has been one of the main sources of income for dealerships forever, for franchises, you know. And my buddy in NorCal that just got out of jail recently, him and his dad were talking about buying a fucking dealership, like just buying one. And the more and more that I which I didn't research much, but you know, my limited reach and give a fuck, I was like, the motor clothes, service, and parts are really the generators of income. It's like a movie theater, right? The movies don't pay the shit. It's the popcorn,
right? Exactly.
And that same thing. Like, they don't make enough off the bikes by the time they pay the salesman and they pay all the fees. The dealership doesn't really make a lot of money, so they make their money on these fucking services and this and that and the other. But at the same time, it's like, just like any other shop, if you open up the aftermarket, and this sucks for like the independent shops, but like it kind of, you know, keeps your customers coming back to you because you can provide them with the type of bike that these guys ultimately want. You know?
And now there's guys now that they go into because of social media and the FXR pages, the Dyna pages, the Big Wheel Bagger pages, the different cultures that are out there in the motorcycle industry. There's guys that go into a Harley shop looking for those cultures. They're not going into the Harley shop just looking for a 2019 Sportster.
Yeah.
They may want the hat or the shirt from Dixon, or they may want some bars from this guy. They've seen the culture online, but they go to the Harley shop and they're like, huh, well.
They also might be walking in that Harley dealership looking for a familiar brand to associate themselves with somebody to become friends. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, and that's what I'm saying. A guy walks in, he's like, oh, fuck, that's Dixon flannel. A buddy of mine has a Dixon flannel, or these other guys, I've seen them wearing Dixon. That's a cool brand. I mean, I think Harley cuts their own fucking throat by not allowing some of that stuff in their store. I mean,
but I guess back to what I originally brought up was, it's funny how they do that on the corporate level or the franchise level with all these dealerships, but then on their social media front, they're like giving shops that void warranties these things to promote their shop. It's almost as stupid as my whole argument. Hey, you're a paint company that makes 2% of your profit off of custom paint, but use custom paint for 99% of your advertising. You know, give me some fucking money. You know what I mean? So it's the same aspect. It's like you don't want to make money from aftermarket stuff, or you don't want to support it, but you're using it to help sell your brand.
Well, see, and sometimes with the guys that get bikes, like, I mean, you may know the guys from the Horsepower Inc.
Yeah.
I mean, did they actually give them the motorcycle?
To my knowledge.
Or, I mean, because there's so much smoke and mirrors going on in the motorcycle industry.
I don't know for a fact, but the same thing is all the HPI, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, they give them a bike and HPI says, oh, fuck, we got to make them fucking 4,000 fucking throttle bodies this year or something weird. You know what I mean? Or
you never know.
What's San Diego Customs doing?
Yeah, San Diego doesn't make anything. So
yeah, so what are they doing for them to get a bike? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors on some of the people, because, you know, when they did that first unveil, a lot of those bikes that they gave away, a lot of people didn't get to keep them. They gave them away for the promotion.
Yeah, I heard that.
Took them back.
Yeah.
Some of the people that should have been able to keep them, that were true riders and true people in this industry, got the shit taken away. But then, because they gave Brantley Gilbert one because he's a famous whatever, he got to keep his. I'm not buying a fucking motorcycle because Brantley Gilbert has one.
Yeah, didn't Ludacris got one?
Yeah, fucking, just a bunch of weird shit, which I love. Ludacris.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, and then he painted his with a fucking black rattle can spray paint or whatever. As soon as he got it, I'm not going to buy a bike because he has one.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Ludacris. I'm not going to buy a bike because Ludacris has one. But
if they give one to a guy, like they give you one, you're a blue collar guy that paints and you bust your ass to make a living in this industry, and you show other people that are like minded, that are in this industry, that work, what they can do to that bike or what can be done, and they're doing it on a real level, I'm going to be like, you know what? Fuck, I'm proud of Harley for doing that. I mean, I guess maybe because I'm not wealthy, I want to see the average guy like you and I succeed,
and that's exactly
and
what's
part
happened.
of this.
That's exactly what's happened. So when those Softails came out, right, they gave them they did that unveil that you're talking about, right? And everybody's like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? And I think Rusty Butcher did the best that he could to make that bike cool, and I honestly think he succeeded the best out of that original unveil by taking that Fat Bob, putting the things that he put on it, and wheeling that bitch up and down the street. Like, he gave it a good look.
I agree.
Now, I also think that it was guys, even though like Mark from Texas Performance doesn't have as much of a following on the local scale here in Texas, he's been a big ambassador for it because he's put it to the test. But, like Speed Kings built a sick ass bike, with that platform. I think it was the one that Valley Customs painted. It was a really, really good looking bike. They made a swing arm off the deal. So all these aftermarket companies are now taking this turd of a marketing scheme that Harley did. And, because we do live off of Harley brand, we have to turn around and take this basket of shit and turn it into something badass that people want to buy and get into now. And that's what's taking place. And that's why you see more and more Softails becoming more like desirable, because you see what people that are going out of their own pockets, their own area to make this bike cool. And then on the flip side of it, Harley's like, fuck all these people taking, trying to aftermarket our shit and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, they're trying to take that Apple approach, like, let's make a product that nobody touches. That's not what motorcycles are ever going to be.
Harley should be sending out fucking thank you letters to people that are making aftermarket parts for those bikes. Because like you said a while ago, if there was no aftermarket for those bikes, I mean, I think they're having a little bit of trouble moving them anyway.
Yeah.
They'd just have a showroom full of that shit. Nobody would be buying and riding that shit in stock form. A couple guys maybe, but, and maybe the motorcycle industry that you and I love is so small that maybe we don't understand how big the picture really is. Maybe there's fucking a gazillion people that want that stock shit.
I think that our culture that we're talking about is lifers. People that buy a bike and they're going to buy one for the rest of their life if Harley makes something they want, right? But what it seems like is that they don't give a fuck about us. They feel like they already got us, right?
Exactly.
So they want to sell a bike to the people that don't. And they don't care if this dude tries it and doesn't like bikes and goes on. That initial sell got that initial shareholder, their paycheck for that time. It's almost like these people, it's like that in that fucking world, which I don't know enough about to talk about, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like these shareholders are like, the one day they own Harley, next day they sell it and they're on fucking Coca-Cola. They have no real passion invested into this company as a whole. So if they don't make money, fuck it, right?
Yeah, they're out. There's no personal, they don't have anything personally vested in other than the money. They care about the money. They don't care about the industry or the culture or going to ride through the mountains or doing a wheelie or doing a burnout. And, they don't give a fuck about that.
They're probably not
They want to know what their
yeah.
dividends are. I mean, and if you said a guy right here next to me that was looking at a new bike and he was interested in a Harley and he watches all their bullshit programs about what they are, and you and I sat down and showed him a couple of pictures of the new Softail and what it could be with, this swing arm or these bars or this paint, I guarantee you that guy's going to be way more interested in buying that bike than he is going, hey, this is what you can get right here.
Yeah.
Well, what else can you get? Well, nothing. That's pretty much it. If there's no aftermarket, this is what you get.
I got to piss real quick.
Oh, you're cool.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So it frustrates me so bad because I like the Harley dealership where I'm from. They want to do some stuff, but I think they're handcuffed a little by Harley. But dude, for years I've done so much business with this Harley dealership. I mean, literally every Harley part that I have bought in the last 18 years, 19 years, I've bought from them. And I started out buying from there in 2000. My granddad and the original owner were friends. I mean, I was able to buy Harley parts at cost plus 10% for years. And then as things progressed, it was cost plus 15, then it was cost plus 20, and then it was cost plus 30, and then it was retail minus 10.
Yeah, it starts going the other way.
And so it just got to the point, I'm like, fuck, I can't come in here and make any money doing this. I can't, and so then it slowly went into when these new bikes came out, I pushed really hard. I'm like, listen, give me one of these bikes. I don't have to own it. I don't have to keep it. Let me have it. Y'all buy the parts. I'll do the labor. Because at the dealership, there's so many things they can't do. They can't touch the exhaust. They can't do this. They can't do this. They can't alter, wheel and tire sizes. So I'm like, well, let me do it. Let me put something on your showroom floor that's good for my business, but also good for your business. Mm-hmm. Because that dealership doesn't give a fuck about customization. They want to sell the bike. I want to do the customization part of it. You sell the bike, send them to me. So let's collaborate on a project and do it. I just couldn't get them to do it. Could not get them to do it, So then now all of a sudden they're having a contest with these high schools in the area that Harley's put this program together. We're going to let these high school kids kind of design a bike. So then the Harley dealership's calling me going, hey, we need an FXRP style fairing, or we need some bags that will look good on this, or hey, what kind of pipe, what are the Dyna guys, or what's the new pipe that looks cool on this? And I'm like, well, what the fuck are y'all calling me?
Immediately when you're saying that, there's this meme where it's like the dude throwing the middle finger, and then all these other middle fingers start coming out of the dude's face and everything.
Yeah.
That's how I feel, because I'm like, well, you need to know what to get what? I'm like, I couldn't help you, but now I can help you.
Yeah.
And don't get, I'm that guy that goes, fuck, all right. Because I really like the guy that's the manager at the store. He just got promoted finally after fucking, I don't know how many years, but I'm like, hey, this is probably the fairing I would use. And this is a pipe that's a pretty decent pipe. And, I said, hey, if you want me to, I'll come down there and spend some time with those high school kids and tell them from the part of the industry that I'm in, the view from where I'm standing. Because the view from where you're standing is completely different. So I'll be glad to come down there. He's like, oh, no, we better not do that. And I'm like, okay, but you can ask me for all my fucking opinions, So some of that stuff just, I don't know why it bothers me. I get fucking ass hurt easy, I guess. Maybe I feel like if let's partner up and do something. Financially, it wasn't going to be any financial gain for me, really. Yeah, it was going to be a fun project.
It was more of a mutual respect thing.
Sure, and it was for me. It would have helped me too get maybe a little more appreciation for the particular bike that I don't really care for that much. And then I may be able to turn to somebody and go, hey, dude, you should buy one of these motherfuckers. They're really cool. But I'm to the point now, I'm a little bitter with Harley and the particular models. And I think the best bike Harley's probably ever built is the 19 or Road Glide. Yeah. I truly think that's probably the best bike they've built in years.
I think the 18 is good. It's the same thing as the 19. Right. It's just that the 19 special just comes with the motor and everything. It is a phenomenal bike. Don't get me wrong. It's just the price point's high. It's a tough sell. You know what I mean? Like, it's a $30,000 bike. You know what I mean? A badass CVO in 2012, which is probably, in my opinion, the most famous year for CVOs, especially Road Glides. They had the best paint schemes and the sickest bikes. That was a $28,000-$30,000 bike then. So in my head, looking at this new bike, like I was looking at my buddy's. He has one of those skunk CVOs, probably the sickest one ever. The skunk, the black and white one. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, my bike doesn't have that. My bike doesn't have this. I should at least have everything this bike came with, and then some. So in another 10 years, if a Road Glide special is $42,000, like the fucking CVO is right now, that fucking bike better do everything that CVO now does. It better motherfucking do that. Yeah.
They priced me at the dealership where I'm from. I bought every new Harley I've ever had from the dealership in Abilene. They got the Battleship Gray CVO Road Glide.
Yeah.
It first came out, I looked at the pictures. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Well, they got one in. So I went up there and looked at it. I was like, fuck, man. That's a good looking fucking bike. So
it's a good looking bike stock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, now that's really what I told him. I go,
it's great looking.
I would own that bike just like that right there.
Yeah.
And probably wouldn't change very much. Probably change the bars because I'm worried about the
bars. Same thing I told him. Bar, seat, exhaust, you're done.
Yeah.
Done.
And so he's like, all right, well, you want me to price it to you? I was like, yeah, price it to me. They come back at like $47,800 out the door.
Wow.
And I'm like, does it come with a truck or something? I mean,
see, better we made a Panda.
Something, man. And so he's like, no, man, that's it. And I was like, I guess I'll never own one. I mean, I just you gotta think, man. Like $47,000. Like
$10 more grand, you can buy a decent starter home in Texas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could buy a used Road Glide and paint it Battleship Gray. I mean,
yeah.
CVO for me is, I mean, they're cool, but somebody else can go buy a CVO.
Don't they have like I don't know this because I've never owned a CVO and probably never will, but don't they have like electronic locking bags and like whoop whoop and it opens the bags or some shit?
Do they?
Something like
See, I didn't know that.
Indian does.
I don't know that Harley does.
I don't know if Harley does or not. I think they do. I think it has locking, unlocking like that.
I think my favorite CVO is the 2009 Road Glide that was the black and orange with the eagle on the fairing, and it was kind of a metal flake.
That
orange.
That was a really famous one.
Yeah.
It had the silver eagle down the side.
And they had a gray one, gray and black.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law bought that bike, and
dude,
those were good looking in 09. That was the first. That was the frame change when it's in 09. So,
yeah. We'll see in 12 when I bought my first Road Glide, or it was actually my second one, but it was the first one I ever bought new. Dude, I was 30 years old, right? No, I was 29. I was 29 years old. I bought a Road Glide in my whole life. Like we were talking about.
That's a big purchase, dude, for a 29-year-old.
So,
I mean, it is. That's a big purchase.
So at the time, I felt like it was fucking like, wow. Like I literally felt like from this point on, I should be wearing nothing but Prada sunglasses, a Coach wallet. I literally went to the outlets and I think I bought some fucking Coach shoes. You know, they were fucking like $40. I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like going all out on this fucking like Harley thing.
You ain't lying, dude. I'm 30 right now, and that's how I feel about buying this Road Glide.
Dude, I mean, that's
like,
a big
better come with an iPad.
Man. I mean,
and fucking.
I'm 45, and if I go buy a Road Glide right now, that's a big purchase.
Dude, it is.
I mean, it really.
You know the
crazy purchase.
The new meme going around, the fucking one with Family Guy where it's like Meg. Dude,
yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
You seen the new meme? It's like running around. It's like the Family Guy where it's like Meg is the daughter, and all the rest of them are sitting in like fucking like suits and shit, like fucking top hats and suits. And she's like, "You guys think you're so special with your new this or that and the other," and then wrote like say 2017 Road Glide owners, "You guys think you're so special," and then over here it's like us sitting in suits with like in 2019 Road Glide owners, you know, and some shit like that.
Well, I mean, it is a big purchase, man, and I don't know that Harley understands that for some of their customers. I don't know that they really understand the sacrifice that a lot of people make
to have that.
Dude,
yeah.
I mean, I drove a Suburban. I drove an 84 Suburban with no front grille, no front bumper. There wasn't a matching fucking paint panel on the fucking this thing. It was the most hideous shit ever. And I drove that motherfucker proudly every day for a long time so I could have a motorcycle.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. When I was in the motorcycle business, car business, and some other, I wouldn't note cars. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't carry the note on a car. I would carry the note on a Harley.
That's how I am.
Because people, they're like, fuck that car. They can have that motherfucker. Matter of fact, y'all can have my house. Y'all ain't getting my Harley. Yeah. People would make their Harley payment before they did anything. And I just don't know that Harley sees I think with the analytics and all the different shit that they do with number crunching and money, I don't know that they truly know where their customer base is. Or their loyalty customer base is. And maybe we're not very big in the grand scheme, but the loyalty that we've shown, I think there's a lot of influence that, you know, and I'm not talking about me as a person. I'm talking about the industry as a whole. I don't think Harley sees the influence that the aftermarket industry really has on the buyer.
100%.
I don't think they see it. I think they're out of touch with it.
They definitely are.
And I don't know how you ever approach them and get them to understand if there was, and I don't mean a partnership, because Harley's fucked the independent dealer for long enough. The independent dealer should be able to profit from helping Harley Davidson get to where it's at. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They should be sending thank you letters, and they should probably be giving a lot of independent shops a new bike every year, and pick somebody different every year and give them a bike and go, hey, do your thing to this so that we can sell a bunch of these so that everybody will know what can be done with these. I mean,
that's the truth. You know, Indian tried that shit. When Indian first made the first comeback, like 2015 or 16, they reached out to Shope and all these different people to make parts to help kickstart an aftermarket. Like, they understood the fact that, hey, without an aftermarket, we don't have a platform. They got it. And here you are on the flip side, where Harley has this massive aftermarket that it's ready for the next challenge, you know, and they're like, you know, they want to, you know.
But how loyal are we to this industry that even though Harley doesn't give the aftermarket any fucking credit, the guys in the aftermarket still wake up every day, go in and put in the work to create products that are better for Harley Davidson motorcycles with no recognition whatsoever from Harley. Yeah. They're so loyal. Harley can try to put them out of business, you know, do all the bullshit that they do, and guys still wake up and go, fuck, I want to make a part that's better for this bike than what's on it. Even though Harley doesn't give a fuck about me, they're never going to send me $1. They don't even want my part on their bike, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I think the best analogy is like, we're aftermarket. We're pathetic dudes, and we're with a hot chick that just keeps cheating on us every day. And we're like, yeah, well, it was my fault.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and be a better guy tomorrow.
I guess that's how we should feel, though. I mean, and I'm a gnat in this industry. I mean, there's so many guys that are doing things for Harley that, you know, I don't know, man. Sometimes I get sick of seeing it. And sometimes I really wish, I'm like, fuck Harley, I'm buying an Indian. You know, I wish there was a brand that the aftermarket could collaborate with and really get strong with and move in a different direction. I'm not going to say I want to see Harley fail, because I love their stuff, but these numbers that just came out, that if those numbers are true numbers, that's a little bit of a reality check.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of happy about that. I mean, I think Harley should be checked up a little bit, going, hey, you know what, we can sell some motorcycles, but if we want to sell them to these people, maybe we ought to get them to where they're affordable, you know, or maybe, I don't know, maybe we should do some things a little bit differently than we have been doing them. I don't know. I mean, do I think Harley's going to fail? No. Could I see them selling and somebody else coming in and picking it up and maybe some things changing? Yeah.
That'd be nice. I would like that.
But I don't see them being, I mean, they're probably always going to be the powerhouse, but they're not as powerful today as they once were.
Well, I mean, you got to wonder, like, you know, like speculation wise, you know, when these new platforms come out, this adventure bike, this fucking Street Fighter, all these, you know, the fucking electric one that's a fucking joke in itself. We have these bikes. That's what they're banking on, you know, and we don't know. I mean, how much money do they really invest in all these other things? How much of everything are they going to be? I mean, to me, it's like that. And I just had this conversation with Joe today a little bit, in a sense. It's like there's this mechanical feeling about a Harley that feels good. It feels like you're riding a motor, you know, as opposed to, like, you know, on some of the Indians I've ridden before, it's too smooth, it's too quiet, it's too this. Or a sport bike, it's a metric bike. That's the thing that metric bikes always lacked, was a real mechanical, tactile feeling. Like you felt like you were riding something. You know, I guess this is sad, but something American made. Sure. No, I mean, it is. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I haven't been on an Indian. I'd like to ride one just to see, because I've heard so many people rave about it. I know the dude from Barnstorm Custom Cycles, you know what I'm talking about? Did you see the Indian that he did with the bags and the fairing? It kind of has a street glide look to it. It's been a couple years. I don't think I saw that one. Fucking incredible Indian. I mean, it really, I wish people would have run with that design a little bit. I mean, you know, And I think Indian with the new little flat tracker bike, the FTR is that what it's called? I mean, I think when that actually lands, that's going to be a huge thing. Dude, I agree with you. I think that it could possibly kill the entire Sportster market.
Oh, it will.
Yeah, 100% kill it. Dude, that's what I'm saying. Öhlins front and rear.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It can traction control
the entire Sportster market. If anybody's paying attention, the guys that really ride. I mean, the entry-level guy that still thinks, if I get a Harley...
I hope that's a fucking like $8,000 bike in 3 years so I can pick it up. You know what I mean?
But
be like, fuck you, Donnie guys. I'll be like fucking Meg. Or the other
people. The guys who think that they're going to get pussy because they buy a Harley, they may still go and buy a Sportster. But the guys that are truly motorcycle guys are going to look at a Sportster and look at the FTR and go, what the... Fuck that. I'm not buying a fucking Sportster. I mean, you know... I don't know. I wish Harley would get in touch with reality.
Well, you know, that bike coming out, and like I said, it hasn't hit the market yet. It hasn't been in the average buyer's grasped yet. And I think that when it does, I think it'll really put pressure on the Harley, because with Indian building a bike, putting aftermarket components on it, obviously Harley has aftermarket components. It's got Brembo brakes, right, but it has to be Harley Brembo brakes. You know what I mean? Like, how sick would it be if Harley made a real performance-oriented bike where they actually put a front end from Öhlins and Brembos that were real radial calipers and these other kind of components that really could, which they could just make the bikes run better, more smooth, more this, or you know what I mean? Like, it's like they're so concerned with having their logo on every part of the bike that they're like, I could never see an Öhlins front end coming on a stock Harley bike ever.
But why don't they do it? What's the fucking reasoning? Why don't we know why they're? Does it cost that much more to put a good front end on it? Does it cost that much? If Brembo's doing their calipers already, does it cost that much more to put a radial caliper on it?
Yeah.
They've got a CVO model. Why don't they do a performance sport bagger instead of just a standard CVO? Why don't they do something with, they have the stretch bag on the CVO, but
yeah, 4 years too late. Yeah, like, nobody wants it anymore.
Everything's too late.
20. One of the things that has driven me nuts is I'm pro 21-inch front wheels.
Yeah, I am too.
Just always have been. I like 21s.
It's almost impossible to come to fall in love with big wheels and then go to 19s and just be okay with it. So. Yeah,
but why didn't Harley put a 21 on anything? They put it on one of their Softails finally.
Well, they do now on the CVOs, but it's $43,000.
Okay, yeah, but it took how many years for everybody going, fuck, I wish they put a 21 on something. Mm-hmm. Fuck, I wish they put a 21 on something. It took forever. And now they're finally doing it. Why now? What took so fucking long? Who said something to them? Did anybody say anything?
I don't know. I don't know if this is true or not. And I think I've brought it up before, but my buddy that is pretty close, he's a major player in the sales game, of selling Harleys. And he told me that everything that Harley does has a 5-year production plan. So, hey, let's go this way with bikes 5 years from now. They have to, and this is the thing, this is going deeper into this rabbit hole, but in the last 15 years of my life of being in this Harley Davidson motorcycle industry, right? It's only been the last maybe 9 years that I feel like things change so quick with social media, right? They see something, a trend, trends change within a year now. I'm not saying that big wheel baggers came and went quick. I've already that had a 10-year run in my opinion. But now if Harley they have a 5-year window before they can make changes or make additions or whatever to their bikes.
Then they'll always be behind.
They'll always be super behind. They made the Lowrider S 2 years, 1 year or 2 years before they dropped the dyno. Was it 16 and 17? Mm-hmm. And so they made this bike that was it was there. It was close. It wasn't perfect, but it was
they've gotten in a while.
It was a good bike, a good start. You know what I mean? And then they stop, and then they come out with the new bikes. And they only offer the 114 motor in the Fat Bob, which is technically, even though the new Fat Bob, I agree, is a fucking badass looking bike, it's never been the popular model amongst our scene before.
And I don't even really like it in stock form. I like it because of the 114, and I think it has some potential. But just as it sits, it kind of reminds me of the old Fat Bob with a couple of different changes. I'm still not in love with it.
If you get it, to me, I think, like I said, Rusty Butcher did it the best. Get rid of the fucking fat ass front end, put a narrow glide front end on it. I dig the fender, the rear fender. I like it. And that 114, put some mid controls on it. That's a fucking ripper, man.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
That's the same thing. Me and I was telling Brad whenever I was up there, because he had that Fat Bob that he's just now recently kind of wrapping up. I was like, dude, this bike, mid controls, narrow front end, and he had made the kit to put a narrow front wheel on it. That was, dude, it's where it's at, man. It's a good looking bike.
Yep, it is.
You got a decent price point on that.
Yeah, but like you were saying, the 114 though, it's goddamn, what was it, 23 out the door?
23.4 out the door.
I was just talking about for Brad's narrow wheel front end kit. It's like $170.
Yeah, he's a boosted Brad fan. You ran his floorboards on the Dyna and the
floorboards and risers
grips,
and all
risers. Yeah.
Brad's a good dude, man.
It's a death metal connection.
Yeah, he's a good dude. We've been friends for a long time, so he's such a docile dude, man. He's so quiet. I'm surprised that he sat down with y'all and talked when you were there, because I know how quiet he is. We'll go to Sturgis and we always stay together, and in a whole week, you barely get anything out of the guy. He's just so fucking quiet.
But I don't know if he ever listened to this, but when me and Jesse were there, he brought out a fucking shoebox full of pictures from all the West Coast Chopper days and the low parties.
I believe it.
I was like, dude, this is kind of cool that you have a shoebox with pictures.
He was awesome. He was a diehard fan. I was a fan. I was probably a diehard fan. I ended up owning a CFL. I owned a Jeff Decker CFL. And then I owned an El Diablo, a rigid frame El Diablo 2. Stole both of those motherfuckers.
Let's talk about your FXR, because realistically, I would hate to say this and don't get me wrong, but that FXR is like one of the nicest FXRs that was ever on the scene, and it was cool because like I didn't really know of you. Like I remember
nobody
this for sure.
Nobody does now.
I'm gonna tell you exactly how I knew about you, right? Because me and Daryl's Custom Cycles, right? So we're in Sturgis, the first year you built that bike. What was it? 2016.
No, 2016. You were with Daryl that year on your bagger. That's the first year I met you.
Okay, so you met me then, because I don't even remember.
We were at the Knuckle.
So
y'all were having stereo contest.
Yes, we were Big Wheel Bagger.
No, but it was cool, and I had just met Daryl not long before that, and you were there, and I think you might have been riding with the club at the time or some Fast Life. I remember you had a Fast Life vest on.
It was my club, yeah.
But you had that bagger that had the airbrush work on it. It was gray. Because I remember we rode out to the Baggers Magazine party.
Yeah, so you rode with us then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I rode with y'all.
Remember.
But, dude, because you were fucking blowing past everybody.
Fast Life, baby.
No doubt. But I guess, I was just like, fuck, man, I've been drinking. I got to chill out. So everybody's just, I'm like, dude. Just,
I went to Daryl's shop last Saturday. I hadn't seen him in a while. We just hung out. And I was like, dude, you know how stupid we were? Like, we literally sat at the Knuckle. I pulled my wife's tits out that day. Like, she had some stickers on her nipples and shit. I was like, we were just fucking acting stupid. And I think this was 2016. No.
Yeah, it was 2016, because it was the year that Brad won People's Choice at the FXR show. Because I met up with Daryl at the Knuckle, and we hung out. Like I say, y'all were...
I think it was 2015 when we did that, though.
Okay.
Because 2016 is when I took my Dyna.
It was 2015, because 2016 is when I won the FXR show. Yeah. So it was 2015.
That's why. Yeah. So you were there. What were you on in 2015? It was 75th.
I was on a 15 Road Glide.
All right. So
which was bone fucking stock. Was nothing. So
we were all there.
The FXR show was at the park.
Yeah, it was down the street. Yeah. And FXRs, no correlation whatsoever at that point in time. But yeah, that day, it was a fucking great day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got super fucked up and did that ride and did that stuff. But 2016, that's when I rode the white bagger, that same bagger, to Sturgis. But we had our bike club going and everything, so I put my Dyna on the trailer. I was like, fuck it, we got a trailer. Like, if someone's bike breaks down or whatever, then they can throw their bike on the trailer and then they can still ride. You know what I mean? But once we got to Sturgis, I pulled the Dyna off the trailer. I was like, man, I kind of want to ride this. And my wife was with me, and we had a sissy barn. It was fucking just kind of stock or whatever at the time. And, man, I had a fun time. And it was kind of the only time at Sturgis that me and my wife kind of did our own thing. Like, we weren't trying to be a part of everything that was going on. We just kind of left everybody alone and kind of went on our own little kind of rides or whatever it was. But, yeah, dude, that was also the year that we were trying to meet up with Daryl, because we were trying to relive that fucking thing we did in 2015. But
he wouldn't meet up with nobody.
No, because his wife was the first time. His wife came out with him, so he didn't get to be crazy like he normally is.
But you knew about me through Daryl, which I'm interested in that story.
He told me, because we were at Baddest Bagger, right? We were at Baddest Bagger at the Knuckle, because that was the first year they put it at the Knuckle. Right. Not the Knuckle, Full Throttle.
Right.
So we were at Full Throttle, and Brad was with my other buddy Brad. He was my buddy Brad was really the guy that co-signed on going into the Dynas and FXRs.
Okay.
You know, he was he's a big motocross fan. So when like all these unknown dudes came up, he had seen some of these dudes in the motocross scene as you know, growing up. So he was like, fuck, this looks fun, but we're all on big wheels and shit, you know. He was the only dude I knew rolling a big wheel with a Simpson helmet in 2015. That was his style, so I give him credit for all that shit. But he was always talking about them, and he just never bought one. And then I ended up buying one before he did. And Daryl knew that I was on a Dyna and that I was running around on them. So he was like, man, you seen Cody Childress's FXR? It's like, I was like,
now, who the fuck is that?
It wasn't that who is it? It's like, what you know, what's an FXR? At 2016, I didn't really know much about it, you know what I mean? And then I saw it, and I was like, that's pretty fucking dope, man. Because I think that, at least for guys like me, that FXR kind of bridged the gap. It was like an easy transition. Like, I liked big wheels, I liked the flashiness of it, but then this Dyna FXR world was a lot more tactile and more mechanical feeling and looking. And so, like, seeing the bike, you had you were running 21 on that? So you had a bigger wheel. I was like, yeah, it's kind of fucking, I can dig this. And it was all painted out, fucking orange frame, which I'm a huge orange fan. It was just set up right, you know? And then
I met Daryl at his store when the big wheel stuff was still pretty hot. And I was just looking around I saw the panicking, and I was like, you know what? I'm in Dallas Metroplex area quite a bit. I'm going to cruise by there. So I cruised by there, and I thought we kind of hit it off, and everything was kind of cool. I mean, I thought we were kind of cool, and that, you know, I'd talk to him, ask him a few questions, hang out, and, you know, I hit him up at Sturgis a couple times. We had a few beers, and then I don't know, it kind of got weird somehow. Like, I don't know what exactly happened, but it was kind of like we just quit talking. Like, it was, I'd text, no text back, no call back. It just kind of got weird. But the deal with my orange bike is, when I was with Brad in 2015, and Brad won Best of Show with his FXR. So I was like, you know what, next year I think, you know, I was building an FXR at the time, but I didn't really know about the FXR show until 2015. So when Brad won, I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to try to build something and at least be involved in this next year, because I liked it. And so I started building an FXR and started buying parts and putting it together and moving along, and got to looking at it, got to watching Instagram, Facebook, seeing other people's stuff. And I was like, all right, what I'm doing is not going to do anything. It's not going to work. I'm like, it's too much of what everybody else is doing, so I've got to mix it up. So while we were at Sturgis in 15, I was at the PM booth, and they had those orange anodized wheels. So
they had just started coming out with that anodized line.
Because that's my favorite color. Orange is my favorite color. Nobody knows, but I mean, it's pretty fucking obvious. But so I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do some stuff with that. So started changing it up a little bit. And Hallman talks about, we built this FXR and we did this, and he was a big part of it. I mean, he helped wire the bike. We would have never gotten it finished had he not flown to Texas and helped me finish it, because I was way fucking behind. Because my dad had got sick in 16 and died in November 16, I think. Sad that I don't know that, but I'd kind of given up. I'm like, fuck it, you know. And my dad would just kept pushing me. He goes, you've got to finish that bike. You got to finish that bike. And I'm like, I will. So when he died, I was like, man, fuck it. I'm just done. I'm not going to fucking worry about it. I'm not going to make it. And so then Hallman's like, no, you can finish it, you know. Then my little brother started pushing me. You can finish it. So things kind of progressed. We had a bunch of problems with paint, a bunch of problems with trying to get the drive line to line up like I wanted to. So
you twin cam this bike, right? So it's twin cam FXR.
Twin cam. I used the SDC oil pan, so I didn't have to cut it. I'm not the guy that, I know there's a lot of guys that are like, don't cut an FXR frame.
Yeah, who gives a fuck? Yeah.
I'm really not that guy. Yeah. I'm like, if you want to cut it, cut it. I bought the San Diego oil pan just because I thought it was cool. I thought it'd be a good, I'm trying to win this fucking show, which is something I've never done before. I've never built a bike with hey, I'm going to go put it in the show and try to win it. That was my goal. But I knew it had to be different. Like, I didn't know exactly what I needed to do different, but I knew it had to be a little bit different, you know. I wanted to run a 21. Not a lot of guys are running a 21. I mean, and other than it being really detailed, it wasn't, I mean, I don't know that it was that over the top. I mean, I think now, by today's standards, it's just another FXR because
I don't think so, man.
You know, Jason says the same thing, but I mean,
I think that, like, not to cut you off, but I think that the thing about your bike is that so much of it was done using the mentality of building bikes. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really sick ass FXRs, and I'm a Lucky Dave seat fan. I'm a lot of that shit fan. But you had a James Carter seat. That's a handmade seat. You know, seat pan, hand stitched. You know, the twin cam thing at the time. I know that twin cams and FXRs have been something that's gone on for a while, but you know, it was still young in the big FXR craze that blew up around that same time, and then, you know, putting a 21 on it. Not just putting a 21 on the bike, but balancing it out. Like,
well, and Kraus, the dude from Sacha, I don't know if you know Sacha from Kraus.
I don't. He knows who I am. But well, I know who he is too.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but like when I was ordered that front end and we started talking about wheel and tire sizes and brakes and calipers and other stuff, he's like, because you can't put a 21 on the bike, you're over braking it. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not road racing this fucking bike. This is a look I'm going after. So I'm going to
Chopper dog life.
Yeah.
Chopper dog.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going for a particular look.
Wait, you didn't steal this idea from anybody, did you?
No. I don't think so. Maybe. Who knows? Shh, I'm not telling if I did.
Jesse James totally built this a long time ago.
But I mean, as the orange theme kind of took place, I started, the frame was black. I mean, when I first mocked the bike up, it was black, and I started looking and I'm like, everybody's frames are black. And I'm like, I don't want to do a black frame, you know? So I'm like, I think I really want to do this candy orange metal flake frame. And Jason, he's like, no. You can't do that. Leave the frame black. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do it. And he's like, dude, you got to leave the frame black. I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. So, I mean, like really at the last minute, we decide, probably a month before Sturgis, we decided to paint the frame. Maybe a little sooner, I mean, a little further out than that, but we decided to paint the frame and get it painted and start throwing it together. And there was a bunch of shit I didn't know, man. I'd never built an FXR. I mean, I had an 84 FXRT. I had 3 84 FXRTs. I had an 84 FXRP, and I was riding those bikes, but I never took one apart and built it. So when I put the twin cam in it, Brad had sent me some mid controls, and I was going to use them. Well, I mocked them up, and they wouldn't work with the twin cam. So I'm like, fuck. So I had to use the stock ones. I'm like, well, they'll fucking work. They're for an FXR frame.
Yeah.
I didn't know they weren't going to fucking work with a twin cam. So it was a huge, matter of fact, to this day, the right side foot control, the peg mount still rubs the cable going into the
to the clutch.
Yeah. Because everybody's like, you got to use a hydraulic clutch. I'm like, I don't want to use a hydraulic clutch. I don't like them.
Yeah.
So we made it work. I probably need to change that, but you know, I changed the tank mounts. I cut the tank mounts out, welded new tank mounts in. I mean, the GPR stabilizer, everybody was using the bolt on from Kraus. I did a weld on. I made the bracket myself, welded it on. The seat pan probably took as long to make as anything, which sounds crazy because it's just fiberglass.
Yeah.
But you can ask Kaufman. I bet I probably still have 10 pans.
But you know, because James, James, a mutual friend of ours, he showed me how to make seat pans when I was doing a lot of big wheel bagger stuff. And so he, even to this day, he tells people in the DFW area, like, hey, if you want to have a seat done by me, just hit Jace up and he'll make you a pan. And I always tell him, like, yeah, no, you know, I don't have time to make a seat pan for you. But the, you know, like, I understand, like, when you're making a seat pan, like, how you shape the rear end, where it stops, all this stuff makes a difference, you know.
Well, and that tank being stretched, and how it came down, and there was a pocket kind of like on the baggers. Mm-hmm. Well, the pocket was so deep, I couldn't figure out a good way to get that pan to work. I finally did, and it's got a hidden mount. I mean, it's actually got a nut cert that's epoxied into the pan, and it bolts through the frame on the underside. Yeah, where it's kind of hidden. I mean, you can still see it, but I mean, I think the bike's cool. I think at the particular time,
I can
remember
perfect,
Joseph Gerardo talking about Joseph, that when I first started doing that bike, and I post a few pictures. I don't go as crazy as some people do, but when I first started doing that bike, I started posting a few pictures. He goes, "You're gonna win the FXR show with that bike." I'm like, "Fuck, dude, it's just an FXR, it's just orange." He's like, "I'm serious." I mean, he goes, "I think you're gonna win it." So I got it all together. and we're getting ready to load it on the trailer. I was like, I guess I better fucking put some gas in it and ride it. I run down and put some gas in it, come back. So we're standing there looking at it. It's fucking pouring fuel out of the fucking back of the tank. Somehow, somewhere, we had pressure tested the tank, done a whole bunch of stuff, it never leaked. It's something got a pinhole somewhere, somehow. So take it all apart, red coat the inside of the tank. We took the bike to Sturgis in a trailer with no tank on it. The tank rode in the back seat with us just trying to dry. Put the tank on it at Sturgis, put gas in it, didn't leak. Rode it to the show and got way more attention than I expected it to. I mean, but there was two sides of that. I mean, there was a lot of people that were like, that's really cool. And there was a lot of people that were like, your bike sucks.
Well, I remember you rode it to the baddest bagger, so that's the first time I ever saw that bike.
I did.
And I was hanging out with Daryl because Daryl had brought his wife there, and he was a different guy the whole time. You know what I mean? Nothing bad, but he just wasn't the free Daryl with drinking and having a good time. And my buddy Brad was with us, and we had made a lot of friends in the Big Wheel Bagger community. We were all hanging out, and we walked up and looked on it. And it's like I didn't really know what I was looking at. I didn't know like that much. I just saw a cool looking bike, and it was a nice bridging of the gap between what I was used to in the Big Wheel Bagger world, and then like the slow transition to get into Dynas and FXRs, and it was just cool, man. Like it was a world that I wasn't like aware of. You know what I mean? Like that shit. Like FXRs weren't big here in Dallas, and honestly, like motor. Like this is something that I envy with you guys and the Chopper Dogs. Like all of you guys living in different areas of the country, you're able to communicate with each other and talk about things that are going on in your area. Like, man, this shit's getting kind of big around here.
Well, see, I think that's what Jason and I have talked about with other people, and we're trying to create not just, it's about friendships and networking. And, I feel like if I got a paint question, I should be able to call you and go, hey, man, I'm jammed up here. What do you think I ought to do? Or if you've got a question about something and you want to call me, I think it should all be we should all work as a team in the industry. There's a lot of jealousy and a lot of bullshit in this industry, but I feel like there's a lot of good people in the industry too that can lean on each other. And, people are like, did you build your motor? I'm like, no. Well, why not? Well, what the fuck? I didn't build a motor in the pickup I drive. Why should I build this fucking motor?
Yeah.
There's guys.
Well, what's the next step after that? Did you make the motor?
Yeah. But there's guys better than me at that.
Yeah.
I don't paint my own bikes because there's people like you that are better painters than me. I feel like there's something to be said for if you get locked in your garage and build it from start to finish, paint, do everything. Yeah, I get that. But I'm not so proud that I can't say Jace's a better painter than I am, so I'm going to let him paint my bike. Or R&R, which I love R&R motors. If I have the money at the time I'm doing anything, I'm going to let R&R build my motor. I love their motors. I've had a couple of them. I've had zero problems with them. They make a fuck ton of power, and I just like them, so I'm going to let them do it. So it was a fun bike to build. It had a lot of, I got a lot of probably good memories from putting that bike together. Jason coming down, that was probably the first time him and I had ever been around each other for more than, any length of time, really, more than a day or two at a time. And it was a test, man. He came down and did, I've always wired my own bikes, but I needed help. I couldn't get it all done in a week. He came down and did an incredible job wiring. I don't know if anybody's ever seen under the seat, under the side covers of that bike, but the wiring is as detailed as everything else on the bike, which, we tried to use, I used Diamond Engineering 12-point on everything. Even on the Krause front end, I got rid of his metric stuff, ordered metric stuff for that front end. Every nut, bolt. I took the petcocks apart that I bought from Pingle, had them anodized. We tried to touch every part of the bike somehow. I hate the tank on it now. I'm changing the tank on it now because the tank was supposed to be 4.2 gallons, and it's probably, I don't know, I think the summit holds about 2 gallons. You can't ride anywhere with it. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. But for the time, I think that when that bike was built, I think that it helped the FXR scene out a lot. I think it brought a lot more attention to it, which almost you could attribute to how big the FXR thing got big. Here's the deal. You see these bikes, you saw that build, and the fact that everybody was telling me about it, hey, did you see that bike Cody Childress built? I'm like, the fuck's an FXR? Who the fuck's Cody Childress? And then you see the bike, oh, that's pretty cool.
I'm into air ride and big wheel baggers and stereos and shit. So I don't know what you're telling me for. But you know, like it really stuck. It really was a nice bike, and I think that it's fair to say that when that bike was built, that it really helped nationalize. Is nationalize a word? I just made it up. Nationalize. I'm drunk, so nationalize. That's sad.
No, it's all good.
It helped nationalize FXRs in a way, because FXRs has never really been I say that. FXRs has always been a big bike across the country for the clubs and things like that, but for the average guy building bikes like that, it was never like the platform unless you're a hamster. You didn't give a fuck about FXRs. You wanted whatever was popular, a chopper, fucking big wheel bagger.
Well, there was a couple of guys that I on following all the different FXR pages and going through a bunch of that, looking at what people were doing and who had cool parts and who didn't, and Joseph being a big part of the FXR world. Daryl Huxell, do you know Daryl?
I know his name.
Yeah, he changes his Instagram name pretty often. I don't know if he's getting hacked or what, but it was HD Flat Track, FXR Pilot. Fucking great dude. But yeah, great fucking dude. But Frankie Vidal.
Yeah, no, Frankie Roy.
Chris Harry. Those guys were at Sturgis, and when I had my bike there, they were just, when I pulled up, they just surrounded me and started, I don't do good with people telling me, hey, your shit's nice.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take it because that's not what I do it for. I love for people to think it, but I'm like, thank you, man. It's just a bike. I'm just like you guys. I had a lucky year or whatever, but they were all praising the bike, which felt good, man. I mean, it really did. When you got guys that's what they do and they're FXR guys.
What'd you think? Like, I don't mean to cut you off, man.
No,
but you were also there the year that I was there on my Gold bike. You came to the FXR show, right? What'd you think about the Trask FXR? It got no attention.
I think what happened that year, and personally, the show was completely different than the years before. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that is because Big Joe was going through some stuff, and I don't know, I'm not privy to all what he was going through, but some things had changed a little bit. I think things got real fucking political. Mm-hmm. I don't know how or what or who caused it, but I think things got way too political somehow. Because if you were looking at really what was there, as far as the detail work, the machine work, the craftsmanship, there was some fucking, the Trask stuff was incredible, dude.
I know, and I got second place that year. So
no, and I'm just saying, but it got so political that even like in the years past, I don't remember anybody being mad at the FXR shows previous, but at that FXR show, there was a lot of people pissed afterwards, and I didn't pay as much attention because I brought my FXR solely to support the show. Yeah. It had already won. I wasn't trying to win anything again, but Danny D, do you know Danny D?
Yeah.
Danny D's bike was a really cool bike. It was really simple. It was cool. It was well built.
Yeah. MJK swing arm. Fucking 143 in
nothing.
It, right?
Yeah, it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
The Pop's Garage Fab bike was in the FXR show. It was more Dyna-ish to me, but it was a well-built bike. Your bike, the paint was probably the best painted bike in that show, in my opinion. I think panel jobs had played out a little bit at that point. I think that the reason I didn't do a panel job on my orange bike is because I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to have to do something different. But you had been riding the fuck out of your bike up to the point you put it in that show.
Yeah.
You didn't build it for that show and put it in the show. You had been riding it. I just think it got political. And I don't know if it got political with...
Yeah, I completely agree. I felt like I only got second place as a political thing, like, hey, we don't want all your big money in our... It's what it felt like. Like, that fucking Trask FXR was fucking nice. Danny's FXR was fucking nice. And I didn't even know Danny's was in the show. I thought Danny got there a little bit later and he was just kind of hanging out. But I felt like, not because I won or anything, because there's second, third, fourth, whatever. But it just seemed like it was like, hey, you know what? your big money motorcycles aren't welcome in this scene is what it felt like that year.
Well, and I couldn't figure out, even Brad and I were talking at the show about, like, where's it going? Where's the FXR thing going? Like, are people trying to rein it back into being really true FXRs? Like, you know, you can't make it so crazy that it doesn't look like an FXR anymore, you know? Like, the Trash bike was so over the top that I think people are like, it's not really an FXR anymore. It's too crazy. And I think when Jason and I did a podcast talking about FXRs, about people making them so wild that it's not an FXR anymore, I think there's some purists out there that really get that mentality. Like, that bike's unbelievable, but it needs to be in a different show, not the FXR show.
I've said that since day one, is that like FXRs have so many like genres of styles, you know, from pro class. I need to slow the fuck down. Pro class style that the Hamsters kind of started, I guess you'd say, back in the 90s, to this more OG look, because I could see an OG fucking FXR with I hate to give it to him, but you know, like a Joe Kid Thunderheader and a fucking like nice set of bars, and you know, like that's a good looking bike. Or a fold out panel job like a San Diego Customs or anybody else that builds shit like that. There's so many styles that you can't. It's so hard to compete them against each other.
Well, and two, I think you get guys that come in. You know, the year I won, nobody knew who the fuck I was. I'm just some fucking kid in Abilene that's I say kid, I guess I'm getting too old to be a kid, but that put a nice bike together. So I think you get guys that show up like Trask. You expect him to show up with something badass. Yeah. I think the FXR show, what I like a little bit about it is that they do look for the average guy bringing a nice bike to the show. They're not looking for, you know, Perowitz to bring a badass FXR or Arlen Ness to show up on an FXR. Or I think they see the guys that come in and they're like, listen, dude, we know
I think that's
that you can build an incredible machine. So, you know, and then also the people vote too, you know. I mean, there's a lot of people that vote. And I think the FXR guys are purists. I think they really like, that looks like an FXR. I like that that's, you know, has a 19-inch front wheel, and I like that it has bags and the triangle side covers. And, you know, I think you get too crazy with something. I think people are like, it's cool, but that's not an FXR. It's not, this is the FXR show. So, you know, I mean, and that was a weird year to me. I mean, not for just not about any of the winnings, just the show as a whole. Yeah, there's a lot of bikes there.
Well, I felt like that was a year that a lot of people were looking. They were on the bandwagon, especially from the bagger world. What's next? You know, it felt like that was the conversation that was being had between everybody. Like, yeah, we've been building this bagger stuff for the last 5 years, but you know, like it feels. There's something in the air. It's not the same. You know, like there's got to be, what's next? Like, I know it's coming, you know. We've been doing so well for so long. Like, what's next? And, you see Trask pulling up with this 143 turboed, fucking realistically, regardless, full, you know, twin cam key fob setup, right? And, you know, it's just...
Who won it? Bennett?
Bennett, yeah, they did that.
Those I mean... I think there was some fallout over that. I mean, I think the people voted. If I remember right, you had to turn a ticket in because they gave when you pulled in, everybody got a ticket.
Yeah.
So I think the people.
Dude, I didn't. First off, I'm not a dude that's like shows. You know what I mean? Like I was more stoked to seeing all these bikes and walking around with Joe and fucking Chris Harry. That's who I was. I was trying to like get street cred by hanging out with those dudes. You know what I mean? But you know.
Well, we're talking about FXR shows. I don't mean to cut you off either, but last year or this past year, I didn't go. Well, Brad's bike won the FXR show.
Which bike did he have?
The one that he won with in 2015.
Oh.
So, to me...
Well, would you say that, like, that rejection that they showed in 2017, do you think that rejection to the Trask and these people, because Trask had a whole assault line they were trying to push on FXRs, but I guess maybe because they felt so much rejection from the FXR community that they just seemed like they just you know what, fuck it, I'm over this, I'm not even going to try to invest and build more FXR stuff. It
could have.
Do you think that
could have,
that has stunted?
And I feel too that guys that are in the FXR community that stay kind of building FXRs are going to see better results than the guy that's builds baggers and then slides an FXR in for the show. And then when that show's over, he's doing baggers or soft tails or whatever it is that he's doing. I mean, you know, I don't know. There's probably so many things that play a factor in it that I'm probably not close to any of them. I'm just putting my opinion out there. But, you know, I love the FXR show. I do. I just think it's a cool show. But I like the Dyna show too. I mean, I haven't got to go to the purpose built one. The John Evil thing they were putting on there. Because it was always like the end of the fucking Sturgis thing. I was like, dude, it's the last day.
I'm home.
I've never made it either because it's the last day. I'd love to make it, but you know, Kurt and John and Frankie, they need to move that shit up 3 or 4 days. So, because that by Friday or Saturday, dude, everybody's fucking wiped out. You know? Yeah. So, but I would like to do that show. I mean,
all right. It's piss break again.
Yeah, I got to piss myself. So.
Your first year in Sturgis.
So my first year in Sturgis was 2007 or 2008. And I was with some guys and talented motherfuckers, man. I mean, these guys, I won't going to bring up any names, but so these guys like to ride fucking hard. So we all go riding. We're riding through Spearfish. So everybody's like, hey, these are all Northern Cali guys too. We're riding through Spearfish, and these guys love to smoke, man. I mean, back then I smoked. I don't smoke anymore, but I smoked a little bit back then, and these motherfuckers were smoking shit that was way out of my fucking league to be smoking. I mean, it was fucking like fucking Cat Williams talking about that super cryptochronolite shit or whatever they were smoking. I mean, they were smoking
that death.
Yeah. Fuck these motherfuckers. So we're riding through Spearfish, dude. And it's like everybody pulls over, so I pull over and we all walk down to this fucking creek and everybody's sitting around. Guys are smoking cigarettes, and so look up, dude, and there's a fucking J coming around. I mean, just a fucking little small joint. There's probably 10 or 12 of us, right? And the joint's coming around. Probably gets to 2 or 3 people from me, and literally, no bullshit, out of the trees, okay? Not from on the street, but out of the trees, fucking DEA. Probably 10 or 12 of them, dude. Behind rocks, out of fucking trees, fucking. You'd have thought we were fucking El Chapo. Because they fucking swarmed us, dude. Fucking. I don't know how it was the only joint on anybody. Nobody else had any weed. Dude flicks it, goes in the river. It's gone.
Yeah.
Nobody has any weed. Not one person has any weed. Take us all up to the fucking top, goes back on the street, searching everybody's bike, searching everybody's fucking pockets, searching every fucking thing. Find no weed. None. They're like, we know y'all are smoking weed. And they're like, dude, nobody has any fucking weed. When nobody's smoking weed, nobody has fucking weed. We're smoking cigarettes, because there was dudes down there smoking cigarettes. They're like, no, we know you had weed. I'm like, nope. So one of the guys, they get to him, he's like, and he's got no weed on him. He's just like, y'all aren't fucking searching me. You can go fuck yourself. And they're like, what? And he's like, you can go fuck yourself. You're not fucking searching me. Fuck y'all. So they take him to jail. Has no weed, but he just refuses to be searched. They take him to jail. One of the guys is like, y'all can search me. I don't have any fucking weed. Has one fucking Percocet on him. They take him to jail. Line us all up. They search my camera bag. They search my fucking bike. Take the fucking seat off. Go through all this whole bullshit. And they're like, all right, here's the deal. You don't have any weed on you, but we know there was weed down there. I'm like, I didn't smoke any weed. True statement. I didn't smoke when I was down by the creek. It never made it to me, but I would have. Just never made it to me. They gave every fucking person there, they made us pay $250 cash ticket. They said, you can pay the $250 cash, you can go to jail.
Damn.
We're like, what? I'm like, I don't have $250 cash. They're like, all right, hold on. Come back. Like, all right, we got a credit card machine. So it's $250 ticket. Are you going to jail? So I had to fucking swipe a credit card to keep from going to jail for possession of marijuana. And I had 0 possession of marijuana down there.
Fucking pussies.
So then we're in Sturgis on fucking, it's not Main, it's Lozelle, which is where
the main shit
happens. We blow through a stop sign. We don't even really blow through it. We all kind of just stop, look, go through it. Same 10 or 12 guys pull us all over. $250 ticket, or you can go to jail. And I'm like, well, who ran the stop sign? They're like, one of you. I'm like, well, which one? I don't know. Y'all were as a group. We're like, not all fucking 12 of us went at one time. No, but y'all weren't stopping, so everybody's getting a ticket. So $250 ticket per person, or went to jail for.
Well, this is 2008, right?
A buddy of mine that I was with that went with me gets a $250 ticket for having no padding on his seat. He has a metal seat pan. It was a Roland Sands Softail seat kit, and it was just a metal pan. You covered it yourself. He didn't want to cover it, so he left it metal, and they gave him a $250 ticket for no fucking padding or no cover on a metal seat.
Wow.
They said you can either pay it or go to jail, so he paid it. So this dude was with me the entire trip. So he's paid $750 at this point. I've paid $500 at this point for nothing. It's fucking extortion, dude.
That's all it is.
Absolutely. It was extortion. I didn't think I was ever going to go back, but I just figured, fuck, it's got to chill out.
I've never been pulled over in Sturgis.
I haven't since.
Yeah. It's like completely, last year, the last year I went, not last year, but 2017, when I went with my FXR, that's when I went with my brother. And dude, this is me in probation. I'm not even supposed to drink or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm here, and obviously I'm drinking and I'm having a good time, but I've never stayed in Sturgis. That was the first time I ever stayed in Sturgis, So like come nighttime, my brother's down there fucking at One Eye Jack's doing fucking, body shots and shit like that. And I'm like, dude, like, how are you getting, like, dude, the cops are like, Sturgis is like that place where during the day you can get away with murder, but about 9 o'clock when the fucking sun's down, that place it's kind of a ghost town. Like the campgrounds are lit and the fucking individual parties are going on. So it's like every one of those streets is a stop sign. And I was, one night I just, the night I rode down, I was like, I'm not drinking. I just don't feel like it. I go to the stop sign, I stop, put my foot down. Of course, my FXR was tall, and I'm a short dude, so it's like I can barely touch in some areas and stuff like that. And it's like I saw people getting hit up. Cops were just waiting at every street. Now that it's dead there, if you stumbled, you look like you didn't know what you're doing, whoop, whoop, pulled you over. DWIs, all that shit. And then Daryl told me about the year that 16 that we went. He said that one of his buddies got popped and they got a DWI, and they had the option of paying $1,100 on the spot, and it's like it doesn't go on your record, nothing happens. You just pay the money, and you're banned from being there for 364 days.
That sounds about right. I mean, I've heard of lots of shady shit, but I had my experience with it. It hadn't happened since, but I've gotten pretty good. I hang out at, it was the Easy Rider Saloon. I think it's Full Throttle now.
Iron Horse
or whatever. Yeah,
the one on the corner of Lozelle.
Yeah.
And that other.
That's where we've gotten to hang out. So what I did in 15, 16, 17, whatever I was on, if I drank there, I just, depending on who was working a booth or whatever. I mean, the first year I was there in 15, I had a black Road Glide, and I'd never met Paul Tracy.
He's a good dude.
I still haven't met him to this day, but whoever was working his booth, he had a big dude, may have been his brother.
Pat. I think Pat was probably one of the dudes. Okay.
He was like, hey, dude, I kind of hit it off with him. He's like, just leave your bike here. I was like, you cool? He goes, yeah, fuck, I'll watch it. He goes, I'm staying in this fucking truck every night. So I'd buy him drinks, and he'd watch my bike all night. And then the next year, I don't remember who the next year. It may have been, wasn't Toll. I may have left it at the toll booth one night. I mean, but I would leave it there every night. And then we would, with the house we stayed at was right on Lazelle for years. So we would just walk down to the house.
Yeah.
And then last year it was at, we stayed a little farther away. So I had a truck there and Brad had a truck there. So Brad didn't drink. His wife didn't drink. So we'd all fucking leave our bikes somewhere and Brad and Kristen would come pick us up. So
nice.
We didn't hardly drive anywhere. We always go out to Matt, Matt Beckdolt. He's a hamster. He's
I think I'll follow him on Instagram or Facebook or something.
He's Carl. He's got something to do with. I may be speaking out of turn. I think he does graphic design or something, and he did all the artwork for like Carl Bruhard Designs, and I don't know the story.
I know Carl, and I know his product line and stuff, but
Matt's a super guy. His wife, his family, they've got a place up in. I'm not going to know how to say it now.
I feel like the hamsters are the Illuminati of the fucking motorcycle world.
You know what? Jason and I talk about the hamsters all the time. Like, I think the reason I like the hamsters, and I don't know all of them because I'm sure there's some of them that are fucking not any fun to be around. But the ones I've been around have been so cool or so hospitable to me that, I mean, like Matt Beckdolt, I didn't know the dude at all. Met him at Sturgis just through an acquaintance. And he's like, hey, we have a party every year at my house. Y'all come up. So I want to say it's on the Wyoming, the South Dakota-Wyoming border. And we go up to this house, dude. It's one of the most incredible houses I've ever been to. And the view is it's over these mountains, dude. It's unbelievable. They cook food. And people just hang out, drink beer. He cooks. They don't charge anybody anything. They cook food. He's got a huge shop with... He's been on the cover of Hot Rod magazine and all these different. He's built a ton of bikes. If you saw some of the bikes, you'd be like, I know who that dude is.
Yeah.
But they're always so cool. Now there's a couple that are. I ain't gonna name any names, but there's a few guys that somebody ought to punch them in the mouth just to check them up and say, hey, look, I know you think you're cool, but you're not as cool as you think you are. But for the most part, all those guys, Kurt Peterson. Do you know Kurt?
I don't know.
He's kind of an FXR Dyna guy. He's got a shop.
I know.
Evil Incorporated.
I don't know him personally, but I know of him.
He's a hamster, and he's always been cool as fuck. I mean, I think you're kind of right. They are kind of like the Illuminati because I don't know that anybody really knows like what you're supposed to do, or I mean, do they have a secret code to like?
It's like a dope handshake is like required.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how do you even know? Like, I mean, do you go up and go?
First off, who picked yellow? That's so fucking Hulkmania.
There's a story. There's a story behind that though. There is a story. With like Donnie Smith, Arlen Ness, Dave Perowitz, and maybe Don Hotop or somebody in there way back at Sturgis. There's a story in a hotel that goes back to how that whole deal came up. And I've heard it before, I just can't remember it right now. But it's a cool story. But the thing and honestly, and I'm not trying to man crush the hamsters, what I think is cool about them is that they're industry guys.
Yeah.
They are motorcycle guys. Like other organizations that ride motorcycles, they're not always concerned about the look of their motorcycle or the performance of their motorcycle or, there's guys out there that are like, fuck, if it will get from here to here, regardless of what it looks like, they're cool with it. I'm not that guy. I mean, I want it to get from here to here, but I want it to still look okay. I mean, but I think those guys being in the industry, I mean, I think they're just like you, and that they're in the industry. They appreciate good things in the industry, and there's painters and metal fab guys and engine builders, and they're industry guys. I think you have to be. As
of right now, I'm already like while you're talking, I'm thinking of what's an animal I can use for my own group that I'm trying to think of right now.
Well, there used to be a group called the Weasels.
The Weasels.
And they were orange. They had orange shirts, and they were called the Weasels. And Jason says they're still around. I don't know if they are or not, but we've hung out with the hamsters a couple of times, and Corey Souza, Jason and Corey are good friends, and Jason talks highly of Corey. I've been around Corey a couple of times, and he's always like when I built that orange FXR, he was one of the first people to come and go, hey, man, he did a great job.
That was the same year that Corey brought that fucking flat bill head.
Yeah, crispy.
The crispy thing. I love Corey to death, but that bike got a lot more attention than it should have got.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it at the Baddest Bagger. At that point in time, I was so blown away.
I will be super honest about that. Is that I love Corey. He's a good dude. That year, he was riding that bike from Dallas or from Florida to Sturgis. A lot of things happened, had some issues with stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he got there and, like many bikes that a lot of people built, it was nice, right? But, that year I was either a judge or I don't think I was a judge at the Purists paint show. And, I was just hanging out. It was the same year that you built your bike. Right. People were freaking out about that bike. And I'm like, it's a nice bike that has a headlight nacelle that looks like a flat build hat flipped up. Like, that is it. And Corey, like, I mean no disrespect, but just in hindsight, like, of all the things that were done, like, these people, what I would say is that year, it felt like the hamster control was in full force.
Oh, it's there.
So it's like,
there's no doubt.
I'm at Purists Paint Show and I'm seeing some very, very nice custom painted bikes. And this one wins best of show. And it's got a bunch of fucking decals that were sprayed around and ripped off. Like, it's not a custom. It's a nice bike, but it's not a custom paint winning show. And it's definitely not a baddest bagger winner over everybody else. There was not, I mean, Rick Fairless cut the heads on it. You know what I mean? Like, there was, I don't know, man. Like, I hate to like downplay it, but it's like, I felt like the Hamsters at that point in time were like, let's give it to the young buck. He's keeping the hamster thing alive. Let's make him famous too.
And you could be right. Yeah, you could be. I mean, there's. I didn't even know at the time, and I still don't know. Like, but every show. I mean, Easy Rider, Iron Horse, Full Throttle, Broken Spoke. I feel like everybody had a big wheel bagger show.
Yeah.
And you went out to them like, if you're headed out towards the Full Throttle that burnt down right across the street. What's the name of it's a big white tent.
The fucking.
But they had baddest bagger there a couple years in a row.
Yeah,
there's some of the wildest shit you've ever seen there. Like, and I rode my FXR out there just to go look because I don't give a fuck what people think. I think some big wheel baggers are still cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I do. I don't give a fuck.
I think they're really cool, especially when they're on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're cool. I mean, so I went out there and looked, and some of that stuff I don't even know how you judge, because some of it is so over the top that I'm like, well, fuck. I mean, this one's got a 30, that one's got a 30, and they've got this fender and this fender, but are they judging them based on paint? Because they're all stretch bags, big wheels, big stereos, air ride, center stands, lay frame. I mean, there's so much of it, and there was so much that year.
I feel like at this point they need to start judging on physical aptitude, so they all got to stand there like this. And that judges if they win or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know how they could judge in that. And the Purists Paint Show, I've always enjoyed going to that show. I do think every once in a while there are some. I'm not going to say every year. The FXR show, the year I won, the bike that won, there was first, second, third, and then there's People's Choice. Well, the People's Choice was a hamster bike.
Yeah.
Well, that's because fucking 50 hamsters showed up and voted for the dude. Well, not taking anything away from the bike.
Hamsters roll deep in the FXR scene.
Yeah, and this was a great bike. I just don't know that it was. I mean, it was the People's Choice because 50 of them fucking voted for it.
Yeah.
But Joe was a hamster. I don't know if he's still a hamster anymore, Big Joe. He was a hamster.
There's a dude in the Hamsters because last year at Daytona we went to the hamster party with Dave Perowitz and Jody and all them. And there was a yellow full fairing FXR, and it's still, I love this bike. It's a hamster. It's a yellow one, RT setup, right? Full fairing, clamshells, yellow paint scheme. I literally got it saved on my phone. It's a dope ass bike.
He's a hamster.
Yeah, he's a hamster.
And he was there in 15 when Brad won with that bike.
For real.
And there's another one that his buddy built, I think is a different color, and he's a hamster. But I mean, they're big. They were doing FXR things.
Yeah.
Really before FXR things were cool. Really. Yeah. I mean, they've been doing FXR stuff a while.
They were doing FXR shit, and then they did chopper shit, and then FXR shit got cool again.
Yeah. I mean, but
I guess in hindsight, like, I respect what this collection of bike builders and industry people created with this, and I think that it's dated, not to say anything bad, but it's dated. It really only seems fitting for a crowd in certain areas. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see any hamster kind of dudes reaching out to anybody in our scene of the last couple of years going, hey, you guys are doing a good thing. Like, maybe you should be a part of what we do or what we're about.
Well, supposedly, just rumor, as that they cut it off to where either Dave Perowitz or Arlen Ness or somebody, there's supposedly a West Coast, East Coast, Northern, and Southern, like captain, I guess you will, like boss. Like the John Gotti of Northern is Perowitz, and then somewhere up there Donnie Smith, and then you've got
I would say the biggest hamster over here is fucking Fairless.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's the shot caller of this area. Arlen Ness is on the West Coast. I think I thought Trotta was a hamster. I don't know if he is or not. But somebody runs the East Coast, but supposedly they have, there's a hierarchy. It's like it goes up to like these guys, run the thing, and supposedly they cut it off and said it's frozen. Nobody can come in right now.
Well, that would be stupid. And
so, and I want to say that, I don't know who said that, but this was in 2015 that we were talking about it. And, I reached out to Fairless a couple of times through email, just asking, hey, I kind of like the things that you are about because it's about industry stuff and custom motorcycling, and I never got any response. So I was just like, well, maybe that's it. I don't know what else you do. I'm not going to.
When I was coming up in this industry, I did a lot of work for Fairless, working at the other side. And I was always under the impression, especially working through Gary and them, when we talk about it, it was like, the hamster thing was like you had to be a baller, a fucking baller to be in that shit.
Yeah, but I know some guys that are hamsters. I know who they are and that they are hamsters that aren't balling.
Yeah.
I think Corey Souza does decent with his business, but I don't know that he's at baller status.
No, definitely not. Maybe, I don't know.
Kurt Peterson's a regular guy.
I only have a bike. I don't even have a car.
Kurt Peterson's an ex-military guy. Has a Little Evil Incorporated. He's a working guy. I would not consider him a baller at all. He's a regular guy. To me, he's a cool guy, regular guy.
Hood rich.
Yeah. And Jason says the same thing. He goes, you got to be rich to be a hamster. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I really don't know that if you do or you don't. I don't have a fucking clue. I would think you meet some of the requirements more so than other people because you got to ride your bike to Sturgis like 3 times to be even.
Well, I think the concept of what it stands for, I think it's pretty phenomenal. But I think that your organization has to constantly stay with the times. And if it's an organization of like-minded bike builders like that, like people that are heading up the industry, you kind of control the industry. Yeah. Right?
No doubt.
And I think that maybe the one thing that this Dyna FXR and performance bagger, I know you guys hate hearing that, performance bagger.
It doesn't bother me a bit.
I know that, I think that maybe that's what it lacks is like a respectful setup like that. There, even big wheels. There's not a whole lot of big wheel dudes that are in the hamster thing. Because let's be real frank, a lot of big wheel dudes came and went real quick. 3-year runs, 5-year runs, 2-year runs, 1-year runs. I'm sure there's some months in there too. That people just couldn't fucking hang. And an organization like the Hamsters really has the control to set the standard of what a shop should provide. And I know that the topic of conversation with me all the time is trailers and shit, right? I get it. People trailer, that's fine, that's all good. But the one common thing that everybody in this motorcycle world starts to do is they start to ride motorcycles. So when you promote riding motorcycles as the hub of everything, then I feel like you get a better result.
Sure. Well, I think that's a big part of the deal is you have to ride. there's some.
You said you have to ride to three Sturgises. Yeah, I did that like 4 Sturgis.
And now they have the deal now that they do the benefit ride to raise money.
I'm finna start hashtagging every one of my pictures on Instagram, like, make me a hamster. What?
Well, I said a while ago that they weren't taking any new members.
Yeah, but fuck them. My name's Jace.
And they did take a new member here recently, Curtis Hoffman.
Curtis? Yeah, for sure.
Curtis made it. And I can remember being at Sturgis and him hanging around. Everywhere we went that we saw hamsters, he was there.
I would get kicked out as soon as I got in, though. Let's be honest.
Oh, there's dudes acting way more of a fool than you probably ever acted in there.
Dude, I'm so, like, you got to understand, man. I'm the dude that goes to work at Walmart, and 3 days later, I'm like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Like, I'm the dude. I'm an anarchist, man, by nature. Like, I'm like, let's break this up into 4 different groups.
But maybe they need something like that in their group. You know what I mean?
Well, I think like, it really is dope what it is, what it stands for. But I think that there's too many old hats and old people in there. Yeah,
and I do think just from the outside looking in that some of the older guys, and Perowitz is never going to relinquish any.
Dave's my dude, man.
He's not going to relinquish any stronghold on that, something he started. I think Arlen's probably like, let the younger guys take the reins.
He's probably smoking weed.
Perowitz is like, he's got white knuckling that, like, I'm not letting go. Well, but I think there's some younger, I do think there are. I think Corey Souza's probably going to be the East Coast Don. He's going to be the made guy out there on the East Coast probably of that for, before too long. You've got Rick Fairless here. Who's taking his? How many hamsters do you see around here?
None.
Okay, so why?
Rick Fairless and Joe T is the only people I know here.
So do they not want any Texas members, or what's the deal? There's got to be something there.
They'll probably make fucking Richard Rawlings a fucking hamster before a real biker.
Blast one of them through his bump cars.
I don't know, man. I don't know if Richard could ride 3 times to Sturgis. Well, it's funny. I used to come down here and ride around with that dude and drink beer.
Richard?
Back when I was working for FedEx.
I will, me and a lot of homies, because, I've never met the dude before. And everybody's always had an opinion about him, right? Like, oh, he's a fucking queer, he's gay, he's fucking whatever. When he did the Joe Rogan podcast, I'm like, he's kind of my hero now. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like,
I was working for FedEx. I was coming I came down here for a week to go to a management training school. So I got off one day, and he was on Harry Hines at the time. Yeah. Aaron Kaufman had just started working for him. Did you see the bike they built for Nostalgia Wheel? They built a air ride, like it was I-beam, like old Model A I-beam.
The only thing I remember is the one they did for the Discovery Channel that they went against, Jesse James and
this had to be 2004 or 5. Damn. Aaron just started working for him. They were in this little bitty shop on the corner of Harry Hines and something else. They were building a bike for Nostalgia Wheel Company and a car for Nostalgia Wheel Company. And Aaron was doing all this crazy front end. It was an air ride front end made out of like a drop axle leaf spring Model A. It was fucking wild looking. It's really cool. So I was like, I had seen something. He had a 53 that they had chopped the top on. I'd seen something. I was like, I'm just going to go by that dude's place and see if there's anybody there. So I go by there, and he's out there. So I walk up, and, most people are like, hey, is there something I can help you with? Or you want to buy a T-shirt or whatever? He's like, hey, come on in, man. Check it out. It's like, I just want to stop by and see your shop. Just, I'm kind of a fan of some of y'all's work. He's like, well, fuck, come on in. So I go in, and we start drinking beer. And the next thing I know, we're in his Ford pickup fucking driving around, and he's taking me to fucking this dude that has all these Corvettes. This other dude's got all these vintage motors. This dude's a fabricator. This dude collects vintage Formula One cars. I guess over in Harry Hines, there's like an industrial park area.
Yeah, it really is.
So he's taking me to every one of these shops, and he introduced me to people like I've known the guy for 20 years. This was my first day that I've met him. So he's like, what are you doing tomorrow? And I'm like, I got fun class all day. He's like, well, what about after? I'm like, I guess I'm coming over here. He's like, cool. So I go back the next day, fucking drink beer with him, fucking drive around his fucking pickup and just do bullshit. And I did that for a fucking week. And
at the end of the week, I needed a friend.
At the end of the week, he was like, hey, I'm having a huge party at the W Hotel. I rented the fucking penthouse. I'm having a big fucking party. I'm like, yeah, my wife's probably not going to be cool with me showing up to that, so I'm going to pass on that. But, I mean, anytime you want to hang out and drink beer, I'll gladly come around fucking. But, he was as cool as anybody that I've ever met, just like talking right now. I'm just like us talking. He never fucking big time. He was drinking Miller Lite, just doing regular guy shit.
Just Texas as fuck.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was before he inherited money, after he inherited money, or whatever all the stories are. I've heard he inherited a fuck ton of money or inherited a printing company from his grandfather, and he sold the printing company for a bunch of money. But, I mean, he told me he was a paramedic or a firefighter or some shit. And, I mean, he was just fucking a regular dude. Like, he was talking about Aaron being a fabricator, and he's like, dude, I can barely put air in the tires. He's like, I don't do fuck all. He goes, this is just my shop, and Aaron does all the work. He goes, I'm just a fucking guy behind it.
Yeah.
But he was cool. I mean, he never, now some of the shit you see him do on TV, it's probably scripted. And
yeah, I
hadn't talked to the guy since then, never reached out to him after that. But for that week, he was just a regular dude, you know? So people I couldn't say, yeah, he's a fucking douchebag.
I don't think he is, man. Like,
because that week, he wasn't a douchebag to me. He was cool. I've met a lot of people that were a lot fucking douchier than he was, you know?
Man, like, I don't even know if I know how to articulate this very well, but, like, I can't imagine being him and, like you got to understand, like, he's got to be on a fucking, like, Billy Lane status. You know what I mean? Like, he's the dude. He is Discovery Channel right now in anything to do with fucking wheels, right? So there's got to, like, dude, if I get 10 more thousand followers on Instagram, I'm probably going to fuck some shit up. You know what I mean? I'm probably going to turn into a dick. You know what I mean?
So, dude, I don't even have 2,500 followers on Instagram.
I can't imagine being on that level of, like, you know, like, just like, you know, like how.
No, but you know what's funny? He still just keeps doing the shit that he does. He doesn't seem to be trying to conform to anyone. Like, he's still wearing fucking skinny jeans with fucking Prada high tops or whatever those fucking shoes
I remember my first big wool bagger.
You know, I mean, I don't know. It's just, you know, I know he's partnered up with that dude that he's always with, fucking, and that dude's got a ton of money.
I think that, you know, regardless of people's opinions, or even, you know, like, I had reached out to Aaron because pretty much everybody that works at Gas Monkey, I have either worked next to in an actual job, which I haven't had in 10 years, an actual job. Like, Jeremy's one of the main fabricators now. Dude, we used to ride to lunch in his fucking HHR fucking turbo. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? This is a dude that I used to hang out with every day for lunch, and now he's the fucking king of Gas Monkey Garage. You know what I mean? And the rest of the people that work there, like, I've had run-ins with everybody just being in this industry, but, like, I heard, or somebody tagged me in, Aaron Kaufman has a Dyna, full Olin's out, right? Dope. And I hit him up, I was like, hey, dude, I don't know if you asked me if it was okay to be a club style dude here in Dallas or not, but, you know, you got to come through me first. That's the fucking powers to be.
Did he respond?
No, he didn't.
Oh, well, see.
No, but
if he was cool, he would have responded.
No, I did reach out because when he started a new company, the ArcLight Fab, I reached out to the page and said, hey, man, like, I see that you're into this, you know, you have a Dyna, you do this. Like, I'd love to have you on the podcast. And like, obviously, this was a media company I was talking to. They're like, well, what's your reach? And I was like, fuck off.
Yeah. And
I was like, here's like, dude, this is like ground root shit. Like, this is ground level shit. Like, my podcast ain't shit. Yes, your fucking guy is gonna make my podcast better. 100%. Cool.
It's what I'm trying to do. I mean, you know, so.
But I got like 15 dudes that are really interested in you. So, like, if you want a good solid 15 followers, I fucking got you, bro.
Hey, I'm at like 23 and some change. I want to be at 2,400 after this podcast.
No, dude. You're like in a different tax bracket at 2,400. You don't want that. Like, dude,
I'll try. I'll try.
I tell
your ego just blows.
I fuck with people all the time because they talk about this follower shit, man, and I'm like, the best things that happened to me because of social media happened to me when I had less than 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
I got to go to Cali, North Carolina. Like, of course, this was at the early days of Instagram, but with like 800 followers, I was able to pique the interest of some people in NorCal to start to fly to NorCal to do work, right? That shit didn't happen at 30,000 followers or 20 or 15 or whatever. It's like, it happened at 800. You know what I mean? So it's, the follower shit is it's weird. It's a weird psychological thing, man. It really
I'm sure it is.
Because there's so many times where I'm like I want to just like Instagram fucking boss somebody, like, bitch.
You know, like 30,000 followers, motherfucker. You know who you're talking to?
You know what I mean?
But then it's like, doing that
dude,
shit all
it's
the time.
so funny. I talk about this all the time. Me and my wife, you know, my wife's from Santa Clarita, California. And last year, 2018, we were there for her birthday, and we're hanging out with her friends, and she grew up with, and we were at this like bar. And it was a dope spot, man. And like the first time ever I got mead, right? A hype man and a dude with the Instagram following. I've never felt this before. This dude's like, dude, my boy right here, he's a fucking Instagram king, man. He's a guy, you let him know, he'll shout you out. And I'm like, fuck off, man. I got like fucking 20,000 followers. You can suck my dick. I'm fucking Jace Hudson, bitch. I'm on here on vacation. You live here, ho. You know what I mean? And so this dude pulls up his Instagram. I'm like fucking drinking Stellas and shit. And he like pulls it up. He's like 36,000 followers. Like, I drop my beer. I'm like, yeah, what do you do? This dude has a STI, a WRX STI, and all he does is post pictures of it sitting at the fucking street every day he leaves to work or whatever. Well, and I'm like, wow, like, oh, okay, the motorcycle
scene. There's so much of that shit going on, dude.
It's so small, yeah.
If you can play Fortnite and give up secret codes, you can be a fucking millionaire. I mean,
shit, I'd do it too.
The dude on YouTube that gives all the way the video game shit, he's like the highest paid YouTube guy.
PewDiePie.
Wow. Like $17 million a year, some bullshit off that.
Fuck, dude.
I'd
do gay sex for that much money.
Look, I'm not gay, but 20's 20.
How far are we in? How far are we in before it got brought up?
2 hours, 30 minutes. Dude, it's so... But, you know, ultimately, man, like, the one thing that is hard to figure out about this motorcycle world, this scene, this concept, everything, is this quickness of information, this world that we live in, you know, as convenient and easity and informative as it is, it also breeds a lot of chaos, man. It breeds a lot of people that want to, you know, just negativize the world in a sense where it's like, it makes it fucking like it. Dude, I listen to this podcast, man, and you know, my daughter, man, she's 17. She's up and down, man. I don't want to put her business out there like that, but she's an emotional wreck. You know what I mean? And I don't understand. I have a hard time connecting with that. And I listened to that podcast that Joe Rogan did a couple weeks back, and he talked about someone that talked about how social media has like really created so much anxiety and so much depression in younger people because so much pressure on it. You know what I mean? And every once in a while, like I feel like this, not pressure from social media, but pressure like when I follow people that like that I admire and they do something sick. You know, another painter that does a badass paint job. It's like part of me, like 50% of me is like, fuck, man, that's my homeboy, and he just fucking killed that paint job. I'm fucking stoked for him. And there's the other half of me is like, fuck, I wish he'd die.
Yeah, see, and I get what you're saying. A lot of that, I've just learned to, if I don't have anything positive to say, I just don't say anything. I don't give a fuck if it's politics, motorcycles. I just, if something good, I see it on there, I like it. Other than that, I had to learn to go, it's okay. I got to quit comparing myself. I mean, because there's no need to compare yourself to anybody else on there. I mean, I read a big article the other day about there's these robotic companies or these virtual companies have created fake people. They're not even real people. The people that are creating it are real. They're creating these fictitious people that are like these virtual drawings, and they're making these people on Instagram. Dude, some of them have like 2 million followers, right? Because it pays these companies, because it's their profile, so it pays these companies. So now there's this big influx of people investing into these basically digital people. They're not even real people. Mm-hmm. That my daughter or your daughter or whatever kids are following and looking at what somebody that's not even real is doing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's disturbing to me. Like, you're following a robot because you think the robot's cool and you want to know what the robot's doing. I mean, you're following something that doesn't even exist. You know, and my oldest daughter's 11, and she doesn't have her own Instagram account. I just don't. I'm trying to push her away from it, you know, and I'm trying to, you know, a guy that works for me just recently, 2 weeks ago, his 16-year-old daughter hung herself.
Wow. Dude, wow.
It was right here in Willow Park. And I got to talking to him about some things that, you know, possibilities of maybe what happened, and, you know, social media, boys, you know, trying to look on social media is a lot of smoke and mirrors, you know.
It is.
You can look like a fucking gazillionaire, but it's smoke and mirrors a lot of times, you know. So people compare themselves to that.
I just learned what that meant in 2018.
Are you pretty? Oh, that girl's prettier than I am. Or they have a nicer this than I do. Or, you know, I mean, there may be a dude on there that's got a great truck, but he may be leveraged to the fucking hilt trying to pay for it. He may be working 4 fucking jobs. Nobody fucking knows.
Yeah.
It's just so much not reality that I've just learned to go, you know what, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. Or that chick's got great tits. I like those. Or, you know, but some of it I'm like, oh, it's such bullshit. I just, you know, but I enjoy social media, but I have learned how to deal with it a little more than.
It's like anything. Like, you know? There's so much positive shit that comes from it, but there's a lot of negative. And I think that, you know, like you're like what you just said, like, I mean, like, obviously my daughter's still here, but she's been that way, you know, like fuck life, fuck this, fuck that, you know. I remember my first time smoking weed.
Sorry.
That was a big hit, bro.
Choke on spit.
So it's weird because, like, I guess the weird thing is that, you know, I got a 17-year-old daughter that, like, is going through this shit also. And here I am, I'm using this shit that's also maybe causing her like monstrosity amounts of anxiety and depression and whatnot, and I'm sitting here trying to fucking finagle it to pay her child support. You know what I mean? It's some weird system that's going on.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, it is. I mean, but I don't know how you combat it. I mean, though I read some stuff the other day just because my kids are getting to that age that I worry about, and there's like a new, you know, like people have ADHD and, you know, what these different things that people diagnose. Now there's something that for kids that don't have their phone in their hand, or people that don't have their phone, there's like a phobia or some shit that they don't have their phone, that they get it, and like they're treating it.
That's weird.
Like, what the fuck do you mean they're treating it?
It's fucking weird, man.
It's you. I mean, I didn't have a phone growing up ever. I didn't have my first cell phone until I was in my fucking 20s, and I had to have a backpack to carry it around, but. I turned out okay not having a fucking phone or not having Instagram or Facebook. I think I turned out okay. I mean, and I'm trying to get my kids to understand that so much of that shit is fake, that they're looking at something going, well, Dad, you know, so-and-so has this. I'm like, no, so-and-so has a picture of that. You don't know what they actually have or don't have.
You know, the one thing that's weird, though, is like, I consider myself pretty fucking hip. You know what I mean? Like, look at me. I got camo on my shoes and stuff, Vans, pretty popular. But, you know, like when I took that trip with my daughter to Cali, when I took her out there just kind of showing her my scene, I'm like, look at me, I'm fucking dope, man. I know, we go to Neptune's Net, like all the Dyna dudes come here. And I had my daughter, like I had her prepped, so she would like Dyna bro, Dyna dad, like I had pricked out like the Dyna dudes running around, and then like the different, like she could tell the different scene of dudes riding around in LA when we were driving around. But as cool as I felt like the world that I live in, she still has her own world that she was tapping into while I was there, that I have no fucking clue what the password is to get into that.
My 11-year-old's the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, what is that? She's like, that's so-and-so. I'm like, well, what the fuck is he saying? because I don't understand none of that shit.
Yeah.
And she's telling me all about who. I'm like, I don't get it. You know, I don't understand any of it. I guess we're not supposed to. I'm sure when I was growing up, I was doing shit. My dad was probably like, "What? Who? Yeah, but who was like, NWA or who is? I mean, you know, who's
that shit was probably way more. I don't know, man. Like, think about it, man. Like, if you're in the 80s and your parents are from the 70s and 60s, like, it's still cultural. It's still a cultural fucking phenomenon of like, you know, I was fucking Jimi Hendrix and fuck the fucking Bee Gees or whatever the fuck was the 50s or whatever. But then then the 90s and the fucking grunge era and this, and then you get to this 2000s, which was still pretty realistically okay, and then you hit the teens, like 2010 and here, and you're just like, social media is like catapulted marketing, business, and so many things that like we benefit from to promote what we do for a living. But then our kids, man, like they're fucking like subjected to this, like they don't watch MTV Raps and Beavis and Butthead and all this shit that we grew up on, where you have a little bit of like joke on the side of it. It's like all too serious. Like it's almost like a text message, right? Like a text message, like I could send you a message like, hey, you know, you're gay as fuck, bro. LOL. Fucking, I throw you a fucking emoji that you know that we fuck with each other on, and you're like, oh yeah, this dude's fucking with me. It's almost like the kids don't get that fucking gist,
right?
You know, and they just take everything so seriously.
They do. They take everything way too serious, I think. So, I mean, if the internet broke tomorrow, I don't know that I would be devastated.
Yeah, it's weird. Like that's a big question to ask. Though.
I mean, I say that. I mean, I don't know that I would. I mean, if it changed I'd like to go back and just see. You know, I'd love to raise my kids without Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
There's no telling how. I mean, I get this thing on my phone that says, you've had 3 hours screen time. And I was like, 3 hours screen time? That's cool for a week, you know? And then I'm like, this says 3 hours screen time today. I'm like, there's no fucking way. And then I start thinking, I'm like, all right, well, 10 minutes in the morning, I'm going to take a shit. And then, you know, if I'm sitting at a restaurant, I'm on it. And then I'm like, well, fuck, maybe I am on it 3 hours a day. What could I be doing 3 hours a day if I wasn't on that bullshit?
Yeah.
What could I be getting done? Could I have got the tank made? Could I have got the fucking tires balanced? Could I got the fucking rocker boxes on? Could I put the floor pans in that car? I mean, what could I be doing? You know, I mean, so.
But it's the instant gratitude that even though we all like to throw millennials under the bus, like, oh, you want this gratitude? I think it's.
Oh fuck! I like it.
It's not an age grade. It's not an age group. It's the fact that the social media thing rewards people for things. Mm-hmm. So we're all looking for short wins to get short likes instead of like, let me be nobody for a year to build one thing that's really badass that's only going to be popular on Instagram for 2 days.
Yeah. No. I mean, I get it. You know, I check your phones. I'm like, fuck, somebody like that? Oh shit! I got fucking 111 likes. Well, what the fuck does that mean? It means I still got to get up and go to work.
Yeah. It
means that I'm still paying the mortgage of this motherfucking house. And that means electric bill's still coming. It don't matter how many likes I get on there. Nobody's sending a check.
Yeah, dude, it's weird. That's why, like, you ever watch, like, any of that, like, Black Mirror shit on, like, Netflix and stuff? Dude, that shit'll fuck your life up.
Yeah.
It's like a series. It's like the Twilight Zone for our life, or our world now, right? It's like scenarios where technology has more or less in different ideas and varieties. Like one really weird one is like there's this implant where you can put you can record with everything you see. Everything. It's all recorded. It's saved. You can scroll back 4 years and rewatch shit you saw with your own eyes that day, that time. Like, you fucked this banging ass chick or big ass fake or real titties, whatever you're into, right there, right? You recorded that in your eyes. 4 years later, you can play it back, jerk off to it, whatever you want to do. They didn't do that in the thing, but I'm just thinking, like, that's what I would do, you know, right? So, but then they start the episodes off with, like, how cool is this technology? This is dope. Like, fuck, man, that'd be cool. And then they fucking go down the hole of, like, but did you think about it like this? And it shows like how this technology can really ruin every aspect of your well-being. And it's so fucking fascinating. Like it's weird. Or some of them, like the first episode. Have you ever watched the first episode of the complete series? It's all about like a political figure that's being called, with this culture that we're in now, where people want to fucking like take his job, end this dude's career. It's like a British thing. They want this dude to blow another guy on television, or it's something weird like that.
He had to fuck a pig.
Yeah, he had to fuck a pig. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It was fucking weird, but it's accurate. It's so mind-blowing accurate.
Wow.
And it's on Netflix. It's fucking free. You just got to pay $13 a month for it. So, well, 15 now. They fucking upgraded. But it's a weird world, man. Like, it's hard to navigate. Like, think about it. Like, when you first got in that chopper dog shit, like, there was a formula that worked. Like, to start a shop and be successful and make it happen. And then now, here we are, 15 years later, and it's not the same. Like, the winning recipe is not the same. You don't have to be a good fabricator or a good builder or a good anything. You have to be a good personality. You have to be a good picture taker. You have to be a lot of other things that was never on the table before.
Which wins up front, but in the long run loses, because
but can we say in the long run? Because we're still in the long run.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
It's.
I just think eventually, if you're doing shady shit, it'll catch up to you.
It's still like it's hard to say shady. Like, I would say that anybody that builds a bike, like if you're just a tactile dude that's doing the motions of building a great motor, doing great services, like you're gonna be successful in a sense. But like realistically, the way people choose who they want to work on their bike has a lot to do with who's popular on the internet, on social media.
No doubt.
And so, like, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, here in the Midwest, like we don't have these big powerhouse Instagram fucking famous bike shops. You know what I mean? But if we were in LA and like you had to compete with Rusty Butcher, who has a fucking, it doesn't work on bikes, but now all of a sudden he has this massive group of following of people that want him to build them a bike. But he's like, oh, dude, I'm sorry, I just sell Sportster t-shirts. Like, sorry, I misinformed you of that I'm a bike builder. You know what I mean? But people follow him because his content is engaging and he jumps streets with his bike. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It's like half the people are thinking of like the way the world was when, biker build-offs came on, and then the other half are like, but then I see famous people on Instagram, so they got to be the same thing. You don't see Matt Hodge, one of the fucking most amazing bike builders I've ever seen his work before, on Instagram jumping fucking highways on his bike. You know what I mean? He's just out there just running around his fucking little, retard cart, whatever. Is that what you call it? His Stephen Hawking thing cart,
Did you drive one of those around?
Well, remember?
Was it one of the biker build-offs?
He was just his shop.
What's that dude doing now? Like build one bike a year for about $250?
Probably $1 million a year.
Yeah.
But it's also cool, Ben, because like I hear about how the West Coast Choppers products have such a high value and the bikes have such a high value that there's actually like people out there that are just looking to get their hands on OG shit, just like dudes are looking for OG fairings on FXRs and things like that. It's a cool world, man.
Yeah, that West Coast chopper stuff still garnishing fucking lots of money. So lots of money. So
what do you think your thing is now? Like there's been a lot of things that's happened with you, which we don't have to talk about, but it's like your passion. Is the motorcycle passion still there for you?
It is. It's different now. It is different. It put things in a different perspective. I to be honest, I have zero desire to do. I don't want to do service work. I don't want to put handlebars on. I would build a bike for somebody or do some custom work for somebody. But I think right now my main goal is raising my kids. That's my number one goal, is raising my kids. I work full time for a company, and I do bike stuff, and then I just started building a car. I like the sheet metal work, the fabricating, the welding, that stuff, as much as I like anything. I mean, I think that's the fun part. I think for me, really, is cliche as it sounds, is I loved art growing up. I loved to draw growing up. I loved to paint. I loved to do. This is kind of like a grown-up version of a coloring book, really, for me. I mean, that's really what it is. I enjoy the, trying to put something together to make it look cool, because there's a lot of people, no shit, you could give them $100,000, tell them about all the parts they want. They couldn't put something together that you're like, whoa, what the fuck is that? I mean, it's not pin the fucking part on the motorcycle. I mean, there's a little more to it than that. So, and Jason's always saying, man, he goes, you have an eye for certain things. He goes, I don't have that eye. He goes, I can do this and I can do this and I can do that. He goes, I don't have an eye to put that shit together. You have an eye for painting. I think I have an eye for putting some things together. Sometimes I put some stuff together. People are like, what the fuck is he doing? But for the most part, I think, for me, it's a stress relief. It's a creative activity that I enjoy doing. The end game, I don't know where it's at. I don't know that it's being in the motorcycle business full time ever again. I don't. I mean, I think I'm going to probably continue. I mean, if I started right now and worked probably the next 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 years, I've got enough projects to keep me busy, just of stuff that, I mean, where I live out there in that little hole, for some people, for some reason, being in this industry, people go, hey, I've got this bike I need to get rid of. Well, I'm like, I can't afford it. They're like, just come look at it. I'm like, well, what is it? Well, it's an 84 FXRT. Well, what do you want for it? Like, I don't know, $500, or whatever. I mean, I bought a 14 Street Glide a couple months ago for $2,500.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna start hanging on that one.
So I've just been kind of that guy that when people want to get rid of shit, I mean, I've got more bullshit that I don't need, that I don't know what I'm going to do with, because it sounds like maybe some of it's worth some money, but some of it too is just something that's going to sit in the box. Yeah. Because you may pay $25 for something thinking it's a good value, and then you try to sell it and you can't get $20 for it. So I don't know. I mean, I think I have a love for this industry that kind of keeps me, I stay enamored with the industry, so I want to be involved in it. I'm not sure how to be involved in it other than I think I enjoy meeting people. I think I've said several times, it's not just about building the bike or going somewhere. It's about the relationships, meeting people, hanging out with people, drinking a beer, sharing a meal, hearing a story, learning about your family. I enjoy that part of this industry. I enjoy meeting people and hanging out with people, even if it's once a year and I get to hang out with 10 people that I don't see but once a year at Sturgis. Yeah. Even if it's flying to Florida and helping Jason do something with a bike, or him flying to Abilene and helping me do something, or, if you ever need a hand with something and you can't get anybody help, fuck, call me. I'm only 2.5 hours away. I'll drive up here. I mean, it's about relationships for me. I mean, and I don't know if that sounds corny, and I don't care, but I enjoy meeting people.
Well, I think
I mean, I enjoy the camaraderie of being around. I don't. People ask me all the time. My kids and other people say, "Well, your dad's a biker," and I'm like, I don't know that I'm a biker. Yeah. I love motorcycles, but I don't know the classification anymore of what a biker is. I mean, I don't. I think my dad was a biker, but my dad never came home. He stayed out all night and banged hookers and did dope and
it's
just
so funny,
whatever. I'm like. I'm trying to make, I'm 45 and I do have some life left. I really do. But at this point in my life, I'm more concerned with giving my kids something that maybe I didn't have growing up. That's my main goal, is to try to make sure that my life's not over by any means, but I've got to put them before me right now, really. I mean, the motorcycle stuff that I do kind of keeps me grounded a little bit, and it keeps me at home in the shop, to where my wife knows where I'm at or what I'm doing. She's not wondering why I'm not coming home or whatever. Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. There's a lot of positive things that come out of it. I mean, the deal that happened with my brother, I mean,
it changed things for me, but I don't know that it changed things just from a motorcycling perspective, but it's changed my general makeup as a person, which I didn't really want it to, but I didn't have an option. I mean, I think there's some things I'll have to go through and get through and grow through and maybe get back to where I was before. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I mean, and maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe I'm supposed to be where I'm at right now and be doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and that's it. I don't know. I mean, there's, I want to continue to work on some bikes and build some bikes. And when I say work on them for me. I mean, I've got some projects that I want to finish that are my projects, but I think right now I just want to work and do my own shit, I mean, still hang out with my buddies.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of fucking stress that comes along with all that shit that's happened, and, the runs that you've had in the motorcycle industry of building and creating, and, the things that we've talked about off air with just dealing with the powers that be in the magazine world and things like that. And, man, it's weird, man, because earlier today I did the podcast with Joe, and we talked a lot about what it is to be a biker, and you just made some statements that were like, you know what, you're not a biker, but at the same time I'm not like, I don't look at you and go like, oh, you're less than, you know what I mean? I'm like, you still bring to the table in the motorcycle world substance that is important to have, because not everybody could be like what you just described your dad, which is spot on of what I consider to be a biker.
No, but that's what my dad was. I'm like, if I open up the photo album of my dad growing up, every weekend they were on their motorcycle at a creek or a creek bed or a river or somewhere camping, cooking goats. I mean, I can remember going with my dad. My dad had a 53 Panhead. He's like, hey, I need your help. And I'm like, for what? And he's like, we're going to a party. And he goes, I got to go rent a U-Haul because it's my weekend to bring beer. And I'm like, okay. So we push his U-Haul up in his Panhead in the back of this U-Haul. We go to this liquor store and he buys like 350 cases of Budweiser. So we stack Budweiser around his fucking bike, and then he takes me home, and then he goes to this party. I mean, that was his routine every weekend, even up until he passed away. That was my dad. That was what he lived for, was being what I would call the stereotypical biker. I mean, times have changed a little bit, and you can't get away with the shit that he was getting away with for years, but I think for what he didn't care. He had some cool motorcycles, but that wasn't his thing. I mean, his thing was riding and partying, and
the bike was the lube for the anal sex. Sure.
I mean, I want to bring a little more to the table, and I don't ever want to. I say I don't ever want to be. I'm not ever going to be the guy that brings. I don't know the right nomenclature, how to put it, but I like being in the motorcycle industry. I mean, if I bring 1/10 of something to the table that somebody else thinks is helpful, cool. I mean, I like the industry part of it. I like the manufacturing. I like the customization. I like the painting. I like everything, every little piece of the puzzle that makes that one custom motorcycle cool.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I really honestly, I enjoy riding, but I give 2 fucks about stock motorcycles.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was going to buy a stock motorcycle and just ride, I'd probably buy the new BMW probably.
Yeah.
And just go. I mean, but I think there's more to it than that. I mean, like I say before, the relationships with people, I mean, the BMW crowd's probably different. I mean, they're not hanging out with painters and sheet metal guys and
smoking
guys.
weed.
Yeah. And guys that make wheels or whatever. I mean, it's a different crowd. And I like as a whole, the motorcycle industry guys, I think they're cool. I mean, the stuff that I've been through with my brothers definitely changed the way I think about a lot of things. But, evidently that was meant to happen in the grand scheme. And, I'm not going to stop doing what I was doing based on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never done motorcycle events in Texas, ever. I mean, I just really, I mean, in 2005 or 6, whatever, I opened full-time. I had my part-time shop up until I think 2005. And then 2005 I opened full-time. I built 2 bikes, took those bikes to Austin,
to the ROT rally, put them in 2 different classes, one first place in both classes as not a pro builder, but as an amateur guy that, I was like, okay, I did that. So I went to ROT a couple years after that, and I haven't been back since. Mm-hmm. And I don't go to the what's the rally you like there in New Brunswick? Giddy Up. Yeah. I've always wanted to go to it, but it's kind of one of those things now. It's not in the cards for me, just under the circumstances. So yeah. I mean,
well, there's a lot of events that are like time consuming. Like Giddy Up's not an event that you get to go be at Giddy Up and then go do your own thing.
Right.
No, Giddy Up is like you go to Giddy Up and then you go back to the campground. It's a full night party. You know what I mean?
I think my favorite event really is anymore Sturgis. Yeah, I love Sturgis. Sure. My wife, she's always had this preconceived notion of what Sturgis was like. She's like, you're not going to Sturgis by yourself. There's no way. You're not going up there and going to go crazy. So I was like, why don't you go with me? So she flew up a couple years ago, and she's like, is this what y'all do? And I'm like, yeah. We ride around these different places and drink beer and hang out and play music and watch people walk by in weird clothes. And she's like, all right, well, cool. I mean, I don't know. I enjoy hanging out with the guys and drinking beer and, so.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'll continue to do.
I'm about to piss myself again. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you're good. It's probably I've got volleyball at 7 a.m. So
nice.
Yeah. So I got about a 40-minute Uber ride too at this point. So I could talk for the rest of the night.
Yeah, I could too, but I'd probably pee
to the rest of the night too.
I want to R. Kelly you right now.
Right. Oh, shit.
All right, we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys, Cody, Kyle.
Thanks for having us, man.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Cool. Yes, sir. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, man. I don't know if you could hear it in this podcast, but I was having mic problems, and I don't know if one of our mics is starting to go out. So hopefully it didn't annoy you too much if it was the issue. But yeah, anyway, I want to thank you guys for checking this out, as well as thank our sponsors, D&DExhaust.com, D&D Exhaust on Instagram, and 844 DND Pipe if you'd like to order any of his nice, fancy exhaust systems. I also want to thank TexasPerformanceMC.com as well as on Instagram, and PaintHufferMetalFlake.com as well as PaintHufferMetalFlake on Instagram. We're currently looking for more sponsors, so if you guys, shops or people out there, want to, shoot me an email, possibly becoming a sponsor, finding out more information about how much we charge and what we try to do and provide, and all that stuff, give me a shout. You can DM me on Instagram, as well as shoot me an email at thefastlifegarage@gmail.com. Thank you guys for checking this out, and continue to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and all that glory stuff like that. Appreciate it. You guys have a good weekend.